my school team. And we even went on a little school trip to Holland and played football against local Dutch schools.
I did that. Strangely enough, I did it. I did two trips. I was probably about 10 and about 12, and we've just booked one for my son for May. With the dads are going with the sons. We're going to holiday. It's great.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, he just sort of comes round. I can't believe we're doing it. Just tell me a little bit about how you think Wales are doing, because I just had Brad Barrett, who I did a gig with for Brad just before the summer. We sort of did this gig at Twickenham, and I went and sung for him and done the gig for him, and so I just got him on the show, and I went through the quarterfinals, and he thinks that Wales obviously favourites for this.
Well, you know what? I've got to be honest. I've got 50 quid in them at 14-1 to win the cup. So I got really good odds last year, and that was before they won the Six Nations. But the team I'm really enjoying watching this World Cup is Japan. I mean, they are just sublime. So much energy and passion, and the offloads are extraordinary.
Yeah. Really,
really good. But Wales, I mean, I'm dreading if we come up against Japan, because I think they're the most unpredictable team in the tournament.
Yeah.
Even though we've got France, on Sunday morning, and I'll be watching all 4 games live Saturday and Sunday. I can't wait. So my wife's going to be a rugby widow. I think Wales have got a great chance. They've got strength and depth. They've got a great belief in themselves at the moment. And who knows? I mean, after the Australia win, anything's possible.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, look, Brad Barrett thought that Wales were favourite for this. How amazing would it be if Warren Gatland signed off his time as coach with a World Cup win, eh?
Well, yeah, it would be extraordinary. I mean, just look, even if we get to the final, that'll be, for most Welsh fans, we'd be delighted with that. So we never try and overreach our goals. But as Alan Wynne-Jones said this week, I think he said there's 240 minutes left of rugby in this World Cup for Wales if they get to the final. So they've got to make every minute count, and I think they can.
Well, just so I know, because talking from one singer to another, I've got a gig tonight, I've got 2 tomorrow, strangely enough. And if you get too excited, you've got to be careful with your voice, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, you can't scream at the TV. No, you can't. I mean, even though, of course, it's almost impossible not to. Listen, just get up early, watch the games, try not to scream, and drink plenty of water.
Yeah.
And then once you wake up on Sunday, who's playing? Who else is playing? England are playing tomorrow, aren't they?
England playing tomorrow, 8:15 against the Aussies, yeah.
So you've got a gig tonight and you've got 2 tomorrow.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, mate, you're not going to get enough sleep.
I know. And I am sort of, do you know what, to be fair, I've probably got the loudest guitarist and sax player with me tomorrow, so I'm going to have to try and get over the top with them doing a bit of Stevie Wonder or something. So it's an absolute nightmare.
Maybe you should put some more instrumentals in the set tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think.
What about that?
Do you know what? I may even pre-record them and just mime it like I did on Top of the Pops.
Well, it's a necessary evil sometimes, isn't it? But yeah.
Just so at the moment you're in Les Mis, and what's your schedule at the moment?
Well, I'm in Les Mis, and then I'm coming out of Les Mis in November when the show closes. The show doesn't close, as it were. The version I'm doing is a limited run.
Right.
And then that opens again in the West End in December. But then I've got some concerts in Wales, in Cardiff and Swansea, and then concerts in Glasgow and Edinburgh before Christmas. And then in January I go to China for the very first time.
Brilliant.
Performing and touring out there. And then Japan in March. I'm kind of missing the Olympics and I'm missing the World Cup, but at least I am going to Japan.
Oh, it's a proper journey. You're going to love that. It's a wonderful one. Listen, I wish you really well with the song. I'm going to play a little bit more coming out of it. I know what it's like trying to get these tracks out and trying to support the team with it, but it sounds great and it does fit the bill, I must say.
Well, who knows? One day maybe they'll be singing my version of this song from the terraces. That's all I want.
That's the idea.
Not much to ask.
No, it's a wonderful feeling. It really is. Listen, I wish you well with it, and I wish you well with your career as well. Say hello to Matt from us. Just say Bell and Sperling said hello.
Okay.
And when we coming on to swing the Sven-Göran and Eriksson song again at some point. Listen,
I will do.
Really wish you well. John Owen Jones there is the stage singer. We're just going to play a little bit about this because it's called Climb Every Mountain, and it's there for the Wales rugby team.
This is is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
AsSpokesmanSaid.com is a leading price comparison website that allows you to compare every energy tariff on the market in seconds. We have more deals than any other comparison website offering energy prices, and our impartial independent switching service is free of charge. Nearly 50% of UK households have switched bills, and there are hundreds to be saved. Visit AsSpokesmanSaid.com, as recommended in The Guardian, The Times and The Sun. AsSpokesmanSaid.com.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Premier League, Championship and fan shows. 7 days a week. We've got your team covered. Love Sport. Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Good morning. Love Sport Radio, Love Sport Breakfast with me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, here with you until 10 a.m. Let's touch on those main headlines this morning. VAR dominates as the Premier League returns. Controversy in the United-Liverpool game and so many other games this weekend. We're going to be joined by Keith Hackett later on to discuss this. I'll no doubt be discussing it with Patrick. England beat Australia on Saturday and Wales win yesterday in the rugby. They edge past France. Another racist incident to discuss in the FA Cup this time. A qualifier between Haringey Borough and Yeovil causes the match to be abandoned. And the 100 draft took place last night. We'll be talking to Hugh Turberville later on about that. And a great day for Andy Murray. He's back. He has won a tournament. Again, I will be discussing this with Patrick and so much more this morning. Good morning, Mr. Patrick Christys.
Good morning, Rich. How are you?
I'm embarrassing well. How's life?
Yeah, it's very good, thank you. I must say, I was quite pleasantly surprised yesterday, actually. I had the police on speed dial. I was getting ready to report a massacre. And actually, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tactically did Klopp, didn't he? Which is a phrase I never thought I'd say.
No, look, loads to discuss. And I want to... Do we start with the VAR? Do we start with some of the brilliant quotes after the game?
I think, first and foremost, I think it was the worst weekend for VAR so far. I was watching all the games on Match of the Day yesterday. Obviously, watched a couple of them live, but watching all the games on Match of the Day yesterday, and I was just sat one after the other, just thinking, what? It just kept going.
It was very poor, wasn't it? Do you know what, though? The worst one for me, we're going to go through the weekend's action throughout the show, of course, but the worst one for me was the Tottenham one, Tottenham-Watford. Do you know what it is? It's the fact that some decisions I get are objective, some black and white. The offside's brilliant. That seems to be working, and we seem to get it right. But so many where it is subjective, and it just comes down to it's another human that's making the error. It's not the referee that's making the error. It's another human that's watching it in a booth.
What about the Johnny Evans one? We went, Johnny Evans there.
Miles from the ball?
Yeah.
Usain Bolt isn't getting that ball.
No.
And he didn't really clip him, by the way. I think he clipped himself for a start. So
Yeah,
he didn't
he
even
did.
touch him, wasn't looking to touch him, and it's cost them a point.
At that point, the commentator literally just went, "What is VAR for?" And everyone went, "Yeah, that's a very good point."
Yeah, well, look, we're going to start off with Liverpool, of course, the big game yesterday. Let's hear from Jurgen Klopp complaining about VAR, and we'll hear Solskjaer's reply.
I'm not sure if he can admit that, but Mr. Atkinson was, you saw it in the first moment, so that he ran and he saw that there could be a goal. Then they scored a goal. It was immediately showed VAR. So my coaches were already on their toes, and I said, come on, come down, VAR's checking. And I was 100% sure VAR will overrule it. But then now we see we have the problem. So the ref let the game run because he has VAR. The VAR says then it was not clear, so we could say it's not a foul, so I don't overrule it. Like this, it makes not too much sense. So we don't get anything back from that, but it's a clear VAR issue in the how we deal with it in a moment.
We'll hear from Solskjaer in a second, but what he's saying, and I don't know if I'd necessarily... Well, no, I agree, by the way, was a foul, absolutely. But what he's basically saying is because of the VAR, the referee's not made the decision, which I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with that, because I think then if we go down that road, we're going to see far too much that's just allowed to be played. And I think the referee's still making the decision there and then. If he thought it was a foul, I think he gives it. What he says, he looked in the referee's eyes and he's seen that he thought, well, even if this does lead to a goal, VAR will sort it out. I don't think that's the case.
No.
However, for me, it is a foul.
Yeah, so look, I don't... First and foremost, you've got to look at where the ball... So Lindelof obviously comes through the back, and you think the referee isn't necessarily responsible for seeing that straight away because the ball is immediately knocked forward and Manchester United have basically turned Liverpool round. So the referee his priority has to be looking at where the main action is, right? Knowing that VAR should call it back if there is an issue. And then obviously it goes to VAR. And I think once it's gone to VAR, I was watching the game and I was so happy that Rashford had netted and that United were 1-0 up. And don't get me wrong, I just thought this is brilliant. But I was looking at it, I was like, well, that's not a goal. That can't be a goal because that has to be the rules. That is a clear foul by Lindelof. He's clipped the back of the Liverpool player's leg. And you think, well, if that isn't a free kick then, what's the logic? I can understand the referee missing it straight away. That is fine. I do not have an issue with that. I think it would be weird if he was still looking at in that particular part of the pitch, given the attack was playing that way. Yeah. But then to look at it on the screen and decide it's not a foul, that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, there is one of the rules which effectively states that if it's a different phase of play, then it kind of renders that null and void. But to me, it was still the same phase of play. It was from that moment. It's obviously gone up the other end. They have had the opportunity and obviously scored. Let's hear Solskjaer's reply.
No chance. No. It's not basketball. We're not playing basketball.
So what do you think he just dived?
No, he touched him, but it's not enough to give it's not a clear and obvious error. I don't think it's a foul.
Solskjaer disagrees.
Yeah, well, I mean, good lad. He's towing the party line, isn't it?
Do you know what? It made me laugh. I had another quote from him yesterday where, he got interviewed, and it's that classic one where his basic interview. First and foremost, we need to give credit to one man today.
Oh yeah,
the referee.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay. And it was like that, when you could tell he obviously was a little bit annoyed, and you can tell he's got a bit of pressure on his shoulders. Of course he has with everything that's gone on and the position he's in. But he made it so blatant that it was a little bit cringe for me.
Well, it was a little bit, and you saw him. I don't know if you saw on Match of the Day where they got him with Darren Fletcher discussing the game afterwards, and they were asking him questions, and he was going into such detail, and you could tell that they were a little bit like, what would Fergie have done in this situation? Well, he probably wouldn't have been there for a start, but then he was like, oh well, he'd just given some kind of brief analysis, whereas Solskjaer was just going on for ages about, and he kept using the word risk. We want to take risks, and everyone was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, fine." But it was just a little bit, just cringy. It makes you feel a bit cringy.
Yeah.
But he was a tactical genius yesterday, and I'm pretty sure that now he is the messiah.
It's interesting you mention that because we can hear from Klopp in regards to the Manchester United tactics.
It's not about confidence. It was more about momentum. Means they had it because they were purely there today to defend us. It was like come on, if you set up a team like Man United with the quality they have and make them just defending this and maybe have a ball then James is going or Rashford is going, that's really difficult. We should have done much better, but it's obviously the easier thing to do to play like this. And
yeah, so he's kind of bemoaned the United strategy, being very defensive. I'm interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, suck it, Jurgen.
Simple
Yeah, seriously.
as that.
It is as simple as that.
Do you know what?
Oh, sorry, the team that I was playing against didn't play the way that I wanted them to, so that I could beat them. and I'm absolutely mortified by the whole thing. I mean, how dare they?
Well, someone who had some strong thoughts on this was Jose.
Because United beat Man United at Old Trafford. I think he didn't like the menu.
He likes meat and he got fish, so he was not happy.
He likes meat. He got fish.
Yeah, well, there you are. I mean, that's Jose Mourinho. They're doing his Eric Cantona impression, isn't it? And then the trawler follow, the seagull follow the trawler. Yeah, I like that. But that's true, isn't it? You can't. This annoys me, and Pep Guardiola does it sometimes. When you have a star-studded team that is one of the two best teams in the league, if not the world, that plays free-flowing attacking football and has the capacity to hit a team for 6 or even 8 goals, and then you get annoyed when a team sets up quite defensively and tries to hit you on the break. Tough.
Well, this is it. For a start, it's a compliment, by the way. Yeah. It's a huge compliment to Liverpool. That being said, Liverpool were poor yesterday for me. But they haven't... Right, this is going to sound ridiculous. I know they played 9 games, they've won 8 and they've drawn 1. It's a brilliant start to the season. However, I've got a feeling at some time it's just going to go against them a bit because there's been a few... They were lucky yesterday. On balance of play, you might argue that a draw was maybe the fair result. But look, United tactically, as you said, they took the lead and then at that point they contained and actually defended pretty well. They're getting better, you feel, defensively. They're still not as free-flowing going forward as you'd want them to be, but they're certainly improving defensively, I feel. I don't think Liverpool were great. I think there's been certain games this season where they haven't been great, but they've nicked that 1-0. Sheffield United comes to mind. Leicester comes to mind, where they're nicking goals. A mistake from the Sheffield United goalkeeper, obviously a late goal against Leicester. So look, do they deserve to be on 25 points after 9 games? I'd say no. And I think it'll be interesting as the season goes on. I think a few more things will go against them and we'll see it evening up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just look. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer switched to a 3 at the back and Tuanzebe got injured in the warm-up, so Rojo had to step in, right? So you've instantly got a point of weakness there. That back 3 is not one that will strike fear into the hearts of a lot of defenders. You've got attackers. You've got Lindelof, Maguire and Rojo. Then you've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka playing as a wing-back, fine. We all know his quality. You've got a geriatric Ashley Young on the other side. Fred in the middle, who is not as good as his brother Keith. Scott McTominay, who, he's not exactly the Scottish Messi, is he? Andreas Pereira, who, sounds like a bottle of fizzy water. Then Daniel James and Marcus Rashford up front. I mean, if you can't knock a few past that side, then I'm sorry, but it's your own fault.
Yeah. By the way, definitely called Rojo just there. Is it Bojo's best mate?
Bojo. Yeah, Rojo's just got back from Brussels where he's negotiated the hardest of hard Brexits. He is our Irish backstop.
Well, we're going to be hearing more about Bojo very shortly, aren't we? So we will be discussing that in depth. There was a lot going on after the game. There were some very interesting quotes. In fact, let's hear Neville versus Souness to begin.
People were starting to question him in a big way and say, look, this is not the answer to Manchester United. They need to go and sign another striker, and they might still need to, but at least he's showing what he is.
Gary, he isn't. He might be one day, but he's not the finished article right now.
No, but he wanted to.
He's not scored enough goals in the Premier League to say Man United can hang their hat on him being the man that's going to take them back to where they want.
No, I get that,
He needs help. This year he's been asked to be the main man. It's the hardest position to play on a football pitch. He's not ready to fill that role right now. He needs help. But like young boy James will need help.
But Graham, Manchester United have a choice to make. They either stick with him and believe in him in the long term. But you can look at Liverpool's front 3 today. Look at Firmino when he first comes up.
What do you mean it's a case of sticking with them? Man United have only one choice to make. Who they buy?
Who they buy? And that was Graham Souness. Your thoughts?
I don't know if they're on each other's Christmas card list, are they?
No, you could tell he was. Obviously, they weren't.
Can you imagine just being Graham Souness's missus, by the way?
No.
Because it's like, well, what do you call this? Well, that's dinner, Graham. Well, that's not what I wanted, was it? You've undercooked the lamb, and then you've undercooked... All right, Graham, we'll offer a steer replacement. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's not fine. It's like, shut up, okay? It's just impossible to please. You get me a new Rolex watch. He's, I wanted a Casio.
You get the Casio, and where's the Rolex?
Where's the Rolex?
You do get the feeling he is a bit like... Well, interestingly, where it then escalated, of course, yesterday. For those who have seen it, it was very, very funny. Roy Keane then chips in.
Go and get Kane.
Just go and get Kane from Spurs, easy.
You'll be popular with Spurs fans.
Just go and get him.
Serious?
Yeah, what you're all staring at. Yeah.
But that's what Man United. That's what Man United should be batting. Right. That's what Man United should be batting. Go for the best. Always have done.
They're in disarray. Go and get him.
What are you looking at, Reg?
What are you staring at?
What are you looking at?
Huh?
What are you looking at?
Producer Mark's staring at. What are you staring at?
What are you looking at? Hey! Oh, fantastic. I think let's just be done with it, right? After the game, you've got maybe an interview with Jurgen Klopp, an interview with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and it comes back to the studio where there is just a topless Roy Keane and a topless Graham Souness just going at it, just beating each other up. And then it's a fight to the death, and then we just all go home.
Do you know what I love about it is we've all got a mate like Roy Keane who will come out with a comment like that. Get Kane, easy.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Roy. Actually, it's not. There's actually quite a lot of complex issues at stake here. Actually, bringing in Harry Kane. Of course, he's a Tottenham legend. He loves Tottenham. He's probably not going to come. We're probably looking at maybe $250 million. Maybe even more. So it's probably not easy. Get it done. But no, Roy, it's not that easy.
He's the type of mate that you go to the casino with, right? And you sit down, and it's like, oh, go on, twist, twist, twist. Oh, you've gone bust. Can't believe you've done that.
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, it's easy, mate. Right, seriously, this one's ready to drop. It's ready to drop, mate. Yep, put your money in there. Put your money in there. Tap it, tap it, tap. Oh, you got unlucky there, mate. Okay, anyway, it's in a bit.
Do you know what? It was fascinating, the conversation, because this was part of it as well, where they were arguing whether United are still that team. Because he's like, no, get it done. Like, you're Man United. And they're like, well, you're not that team anymore. You're not Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United at the top of the league trying to get Harry Kane from Tottenham or 5th or
The only
10th.
way they're getting Harry Kane is if they tranquilise him and bring him there in a net under a helicopter.
Something like from Jurassic Park. You bring it in.
Like transporting a rhino across the desert. Do you know what I mean? Like, just Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. See, it'd make Bielsa's tactics look like child's play, wouldn't it? Solskjaer's just over with like a tranquilizer sniper rifle. We got him! He's down! Get the helicopter! Go!
Imagine him sat in a seat and his head's floppy and he's like a puppet kind of waving to the fans. Yeah, he really wants to be here. It's a lovely thought, though. It is a lovely thought that Harry Kane were to line up for Man. Not a lovely thought for Tottenham fans, of course, but this is it. I think
Harry Kane's first interview, where he's just sat there, the camera's really close in on his face. He's just like, I am happy to be here at Manchester United. The camera slips, just a bloke with a gun to his head.
Yeah, Roy Keane.
Yeah.
But this is it, right? This is where I suppose part of the issue or part of the debate was the fact that Roy Keane obviously still sees United as that United. Now, don't get me wrong, they're obviously massive. They're a huge club still. Financially, we're talking about potentially a £4 billion takeover they're talking about. But if you're Harry Kane, this is part of it. So if you're Harry Kane, do you leave Spurs for Man United right now? Of course not. Yeah. Even if, unless your biggest driver is money, at which point, you know what, United could probably offer him maybe $600-700 a week maybe, and they probably could pay the fee needed to bring him over to United. But do you get it done? Like, it doesn't happen. I think this is... Right, I'm just going to keep talking because what's ended up happening is Patrick's had some form of explosion. Are you with us, Patrick?
I am, yeah, sorry, mate.
What happened there? You got a bit of a cold today.
I've got a bit of a cold, and I was trying to stay away from the microphone, so...
Do you know, I think everyone can appreciate, our listeners can appreciate, when you're talking to someone and you can tell they're not listening.
I was listening.
You were listening. Okay, right, not that they're not listening, that they have some kind of mishap, and like literally, you've got it all over your face.
Have I actually?
All over your face. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Tell you what we'll do. We'll give ourselves a couple of minutes.
It's a real mess.
We'll get
it's a good job we're on YouTube, isn't it?
We are on. In fact, that's a lovely segue. We're on YouTube. Do find us on YouTube. Just type in Love Sport Breakfast. I see several of you are watching us now on YouTube. We're also on WhatsApp. 0208 70 20 558.
Oh. Just quickly, sorry, actually, I know we are going to kind of stick with the main theme, of course, of VAR and just football in general, but Andy Murray did all right, didn't he?
He did brilliantly. No, there's a lot we're going to be going through today. Of course, it was the 100 draft last night as well, which is a little bit weird, but I'm really excited to discuss that and to actually understand it a little bit more. So we're going to be talking about that. On a negative, we're going to be talking, of course, in fact, not only are we going to be talking about the racist incident, we've only gone and got a very, very special guest on the line. Credit to producer Mark. We've got the Haringey Borough manager coming on later. So we're going to be talking to him just after 9. Of course, the rugby as well. The semi-finals upon us. And England are there taking on New Zealand. We'll be discussing that with a couple of guests later in the show. The time is 14 minutes to 7.
Love sport. Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
I'm not a snob. I just don't want to be in the same car as my chauffeur.
This is Love Sport.
This is Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys here with you until 10. We're in quite a jovial mood this morning, aren't we?
It's got a bit of an last day of school vibe to it today, and I can't really work out why, because it's quite a miserable Monday morning.
It's a miserable Monday
it's horrible
morning.
Out there.
It is. But you know who else is jovial? Always jovial.
Go on.
This man. Yeah, we went a little bit further there today. I think we might do that more regularly. Mr. Chris Bailey, founder of FinancialOrbit.com, is on the line. Morning, Chris.
Good morning. I thought we were going to get the legendary second verse then.
It looked like...
even I've never heard that.
I haven't either. I didn't realise it actually went that way that it did. I think we need to bring that in as part of a regular package.
That's right.
Oh,
I think we need to lose the first, we can sort of compress the first 10 seconds, have the last 10. That was great, that last bit. I'm itching to know what happens next. Well, it's a bit like a soap opera, isn't it?
It is. We leave them on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Tune in tomorrow and you'll find out what happens next. Talking about cliffhangers, Brexit. Let's talk Brexit.
Oh. Goodness gracious. What a segue, eh? So basically, Parliament sat on Saturday and basically passed some tedious amendment, which means that we get to talk about it even more effectively. The government may go for another vote today. The pound has come off a little bit, but the pound is up over 5-6% in the last week. So you can see where the direction of travel is. Basically, we are inching towards a deal, and to me, that still seems the most likely scenario. And we can put this behind us and actually try and work out how to make this country great in the 2020s, which I reckon is the bigger challenge. So all eyes on Westminster, fingers crossed for a little bit of clarification.
I was so angry, Chris. You know what? An MP, who, by the way, is on 80 odd grand a year, even stood up in the House and went, oh, well, I'm assuming because we're sitting on Saturday that you're going to pay for my childcare. Manage, mate. Just manage. All right, Tracy down the road works 3 jobs. Do you know what I mean? She's on about half the money that you are, and her kids are absolutely fine. Just suck it up and get this done. Anyway, sorry, Chris. Carry on.
Sorry. Okay. Glad you got that off your chest, Patrick.
Oh,
but
gosh.
yeah, indeed. No. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So hopefully a bit more clarification this week is sort of the cliffhanger Westminster's left us on.
Indeed. And I believe there's some news in regards to Neil Woodford.
Oh, Mr. Woodford. Well, as many people no doubt will have learnt in the last few days, he was sort of a well-renowned, massive fund manager whose business empire, personal fund management firm, has come crashing down in recent weeks. And obviously, I am an ex-fund manager. I used to manage money for people, and fortunately, though, I've managed to avoid the last bit that Mr. Woodford has suffered in recent weeks and months, and got out on my own terms. But the reality is, though, is that what it tells us about this is that there are no gods out there, and business is not easy. Business is not easy. You've got to keep on trying to step up, be a proper person, be somebody who's always trying to do stuff for your clients, and unfortunately not cutting corners and making mistakes like Mr. Woodford did. So yeah, lots of stuff in the press about that. His funds are being wound down. He's exited the fund management game with his tail between his legs. Yeah, business is tough sometimes.
Not good. You see, Chris, I'd like you to look after my money. In fact, Patrick, Chris could look after your money.
Yeah, you could actually, Chris. That would be really handy.
Do you have the 10p handy? Or
Yeah, no, I do. I'll just dust it off. It's got a bit of chewing gum stuck to it at the minute. I found it on the bottom of my shoe earlier. But,
well, see, the 10-penny chews or kind of, a sort of a 30-year kind of investment in global stock markets, it's a tough call, to be honest.
I'll pay you in Mawams.
The 10-penny chews can kind of, that is satisfaction and utility short term, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Until breakfast.
Absolutely. Third quarter earnings release this week.
Yeah, there are too many. So basically, my life. I mean, obviously, the highlight of my day is now passing, talking to you guys. But in the rest of the 23 hours and 45 minutes, I'm not. Then I'm just all over like a rash. These quarterly earnings, corporate numbers, etc.
Yeah.
It is a mega week. You've got 30% of the biggest US companies reporting. You've got about the same in the UK and Europe. Basically, I'm not sleeping. So by the time we get to Friday, you know, you're going to need to sort of rack up the volume on the theme music just to make sure that I'm awake.
Okay, so this is a big week for you. Okay,
this is a huge
like
week. This is so huge. This is, you know, we talked about stripping for action, Rocky style last week. You know, I think it's. I'm going to need that music basically at some point just to motivate me up.
I guess it's good for us to know as well, so we'll know that you're going to be quite tense by the end of the week. So we might.
I'm going to be tense. I'm going to be. Yeah. I'm just. You know, at the moment I'm relaxed, but you know, but as the week goes on, I'm just going to be, you know, tight like a knot.
I've got this beautiful image of you just sat in like a penthouse boardroom. You just click your fingers. Oh, Sharon, I'm stressed. Sharon just comes over, gives you a back rub. You know, that's how it is. That's how it is around the Bailey household.
It is indeed.
It's sadly not. But there you go. We crack on. We crack on. I'll be all right. You know, I've been at this game a while, so you know, it's all about timing and you know, building yourself up.
Fantastic, Chris. As always, we do appreciate it.
See you soon.
Chris Bailey, founder of financialorbit.com. In fact, this is a reasonably nice segue. So he's talking there about, you know, cracking on and you do that. The Wales manager in the rugby, Warren Gatland, they won. Now, they won just. I actually watched this game yesterday while I was here on the show, and it wasn't a particularly good performance from Wales. France shot themselves in the foot a little bit. The man sent off, and then Wales score a bit of a controversial try towards the end to end up winning by a point. Warren Gatland, it has been revealed, had already prepared his resignation speech, effectively. As the game was going on, there's a few quotes, I don't know if you're going to read a couple out, where effectively he was going through all sorts of emotions. He thought it was the end of the road, and he was essentially ready to resign as soon as the game was finished.
Yeah, he was. Just out of interest, because Wales beat France 2019, and just out of interest, what's famous in France? I'd say wine. What does wine come in, mate?
Bottles.
Bottle jobs. The French are bottle jobs. They bottled it. Absolutely. They should have knocked Wales out, and they didn't. 2019, and yeah, Gatland went. I went through a lot of different emotions. What am I going to say to the media? What will I say? What will I say on the TV? You're thinking of those potential scenarios. So I'm really proud of how he hung in there. And then he went on to say that, yeah, he was basically planning his resignation speech. And hey, this is how the world comes round. And just when it gives you lemons, always just make Orangeade laugh. We're all like, what?
Nice. Do you ever, when we're having like a show that maybe we're struggling a bit in,
I don't know what you mean, Rich.
No. So those moments when maybe it's not been our best show. Do you ever have those moments where, like, as the show's going on, we think, oh my word, this could be the end of the road?
Oh, sometimes. I mean, I wake up most mornings and plan what I'm going to say in my tribunal.
Right.
You know, that's just because I think it's always better to be prepared.
It's better to be prepared.
Sometimes I say it before I've said what I know I'm going to say.
Yes.
That gets me in trouble, and that is what my lawyer describes as indefensible.
Right, okay. I want to touch as well on Andy Murray, because Andy Murray did have a big win. Wawrinka, he did beat Wawrinka in the final. In fact, let's hear from Andy Murray himself.
Last few years have been extremely difficult. Both, actually, me and Stan have had a lot of injury problems in the last couple of years. And yeah, amazing, obviously, to be back playing against him in a final like that. I mean, I think it was a great match. Obviously, third set was extremely close again, but yeah, amazing. I mean, yeah, I didn't expect to be in this position at all, so yeah, I'm very, very happy.
You do.
Yeah, I'll just keep dropping Eminem lyrics in there when we talk about Stan. Look, brilliant work for Andy Murray. Some people, not me, some people said he was done.
Right.
In fact, I said
well,
he was
actually,
done.
they retired him, didn't they?
Yeah, they retired him. They did an incredible tribute video. You did it, Andy.
You did it, Andy.
Yeah, which we're going to play that tribute video at some point today because it was superb. But the fact that he's now come back, it's a little bit awkward in a way. The fact that he's come back and won a tournament.
Yeah, it is awkward. It's more than awkward, right? I like the way they've gone with Hip Hip Murray, by the way, in the Sun. Classic Sun. So look, just 9 months ago, Andy Murray couldn't put his socks on. Okay. And then now he's gone and won his first ATP Tour event since returning from hip surgery, and well done him, I must say.
Well, I had a similar story years ago. Like, people thought I was done, had shoulder surgery. I fought so hard to get back.
Yeah.
Now I'm a radio host.
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't really work out.
But no one would have seen that coming.
No.
Anyone who's ever met you, no one would have thought, oh, that's going to happen.
That's the next
You've
step
really
for him.
shook up the world there, Rich.
I appreciate that.
Murray beat Stan Wawrinka 3-6, 6-4, 6-4.
Thanks for the...
Just thought I'd know, because what that is, mate, is an element of fact in what is otherwise quite a chaotic segment.
3 minutes to 7.
This is Love Sport.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it. You just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. We've got a big hour coming up. We're having a little chat between ourselves. Of course, lots going on in the world of sport. We will be talking more about the Man United-Liverpool game, the fallout from that, more VAR, obviously a racist incident, in fact, several racist incidents, unfortunately, over the weekend, which we'll be discussing. We've got Gab Sutton coming on, the Football Lab, to go through the EFL roundup. Another big win for Charlton, by the way, at the weekend. We'll also be speaking to Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator as well. Of course, England did beat Australia. They're going to face New Zealand in the semi-final. A big win for Wales yesterday. A fortunate win, you'd argue, in the end. But they were also in the semi-finals too. All that to come. We're going to be talking... in fact, you can get in touch. 0208 70 20 558 on the WhatsApp. At Love Sport Radio on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. We are on YouTube as well. Feel free to tune in.
Yeah, we stuffed the Aussies as well, Rich. 40-16. And the Australian coach resigned. Quitter.
There you go. 7 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7, there's going to be another showdown between the Commons Speaker and the Prime Minister over Brexit. Boris Johnson will attempt to get MPs to vote again on his new Brexit deal later, after they delayed making a decision over the weekend. But John Bercow's expected to block the move. Constitution expert Professor Meg Russell explains why.
Because the Letwin Amendment stated that MPs did not want to consider that question until the legislation to implement the deal had gone through, I can't see how the Speaker is going to allow the government to put that motion, because it would be in direct contradiction of what was agreed on Saturday.
Meanwhile, judges will decide later whether Boris Johnson's in contempt of court over his Brexit delay letters. The Court of Session will have to decide whether he obeyed the law when he sent one asking for the EU for an extension and another saying he didn't want one. The Duke of Sussex says despite differences between him and his brother Prince William, they will always be there for each other. Prince Harry's opened up about their relationship, saying they have good days and bad days. Police are to be given extra powers and resources to stop the illegal use of drones. The plan includes a mobile counter-drone unit, whose role will be to intercept and shut down suspect devices. Nearly a third of UK drivers have had a near miss because they feel anxious behind the wheel. The mental health charity Sane says symptoms of severe anxiety can include an inability to concentrate, feeling sick, or even jittery hands. Nicola Ward used to feel on edge while driving.
Sort of catastrophising situation. So maybe like I'll be driving under a motorway bridge and I'll imagine it collapsing, things like that. So just feeling on high alert.
And former tennis world number one Sir Andy Murray has won his first singles title since returning from hip surgery. He beat Stan Wawrinka in 3 sets in the final of the European Open. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
Love sport.
Smooth, rich, Costa's premium filter coffee. Just £1.
You what? Hang on, I think there's a typo in here. It says £1. For a coffee? Oh, okay.
Perfection comes at a price, a surprisingly low one. Enjoy Costa's premium filter coffee, just £1.
Primo size only in participating stores until the 31st of October, subject to availability. See costa.co.uk/terms for full T's and C's.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Good morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Let's touch on those headlines today. VAR dominates the weekend's action as the Premier League returns, controversy in the Manchester United-Liverpool game and several other games this weekend. We're going to be talking about that very shortly. Myself, Richard Lee and Patrick Christys. Of course, England beat Australia to make the semi-finals. Wales beat France to make the semi-finals. We're going to be discussing that. There was another racist incident, an FA Cup qualifier between Haringey Borough and Yeovil Town. We're going to be speaking to the Haringey Borough manager later in the show. The 100 draft took place last night and Andy Murray was successful against Stan Wawrinka in the ATP Tour final yesterday. I want to talk to you a little bit about VAR because arguably it has been the worst weekend for VAR. In fact, I know Alan Shearer has come out and said exactly that. Let's hear Sean Dyche's thoughts. So, of course, Burnley took on Leicester. They end up losing 2-1. Very, very controversial goal disallowed. Let's hear from Sean Dyche.
The big talking point is obviously VAR, and I'm a big fan of it, as everyone knows. I think it's right in the game. But you've got to be disappointed with the outcome of that. I've seen it back 37 times. The referee, I'm disappointed in the referee because he made it clear to my coaches if he should need to come and look at the screen, he will do, and to tolerate that and be tolerant of it, which he didn't look at the screen, which I find amazing.
I miss that voice.
That can't be real.
That's him.
Can you imagine him in like this is it? You know, like a Piers Morgan style life stories, but with him interviewing Harry Kane. Oh no, Harry, how's it going? Well, I knew that from the first moment, and I don't know. Oh, it's ridiculous.
I mean, he touched on the fact that he watched it 37 times, which is quite an exact number. Probably could have guessed or chosen an outcome after 2, I'd suggest.
Well, no,
because
he wasn't sure it was 37 times. He asked a Burnley fan to count the number of times on their fingers and toes, and that's the number they came to.
So I'm so glad we're not national yet.
Not yet.
We've also got Brendan Rodgers on VAR as well. Let's hear Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I think it's my feeling in all of these is that some will go for you and some against you. Like I look at our penalty at Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, and I think everyone that you ever spoke to or had seen in the game thought it wasn't a penalty, and we weren't happy about it. But you have to accept it. I think that we've given the ball away. They're more disappointed with that, and then they get in, and it looks like the strikers just clipped the heels of Johnny. But of course, if you're Sean and Burnley and so late on in the game, then you're disappointed when it goes against you. So.
Very diplomatic there from Brendan. Do you know what? And I've watched this over and over. For those who haven't seen it, the ball's going in the corner. Nobody's going to get it. Johnny Evans has tried, trips over, and it is like an old school falling over. It's quite awkward. Like his heels are gone, his face flat on the floor. Yeah. Chris Wood wasn't looking to trip him. I actually don't think there's contact. I've seen it so many times. I don't think there's contact. I think Johnny Evans has tripped himself.
Yeah. So this weekend, Dele Alli's goal. A standing, right? No, Delafeo's penalty a penalty not being given in the Delafeo case, which, I mean...
Let's go through them individually. The Spurs one was more the fact that the referee's given it, and then, of course, on the big screen it comes out, no goal. And the fans are all in absolute confusion.
That was the one for me that really... So the referee goes upstairs, they have a look, the referee gets in his ear, goal, gives a goal, then no goal comes up on the screen. It was like, well, what?
Well, let's hear from Poch on that.
But this is not Tottenham responsibility. It's Premier League responsibility, and of course, like everyone, maybe the guy that pressed the button made a mistake. Everyone can make a mistake.
I mean, you got two buttons. You've got goal or no goal. I mean, if you're going to make a mistake, that's a pretty basic one to make.
I like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's my first day.
my bad.
Oh,
it's a goal. Oh, which one of these buttons is it?
Oh, no.
Just don't let that guy fly aircraft. That's what I'd say. Yeah, look, I mean, that was another one. Then we touched on the Burnley one. The penalty, by the way, for Watford in that game as well. The most blatant penalty. I know I'm biased because of my Watford connection, but I don't care if I'm biased or not. That is a penalty.
Just talk us through it.
So, Delafeu running through, Vertonghen's dived in, and when you watch it on the slow motion replay, at the time I thought it was a penalty. You watch it on the slow motion replay, you see Vertonghen turn his foot out and just hook him. It's a blatant penalty, and I just can't understand how. Firstly, the ref got it wrong, but then as soon as it goes upstairs, and you can see the bit for me was Delafeu was like praying with the ref. Go to VAR, because he knew it was a penalty. Absolutely stonewall penalty. Go to VAR and no penalty given. I just can't. But this goes back to the human error. It's one human's made an error, which is the referee. They've then thrown it to Stockley Park. Another human's made an error. And we end up with two dreadful decisions.
I used to go to a place when I was younger called Stockley Farm, which was like a child's petting zoo.
Maybe they went to Stockley Farm.
I wonder if they've accidentally gone to Stockley Farm.
Right.
And a pig's just put its trotter on the wrong button.
Oh, do you know what? They've
They've got it trained. Like a little bit of food comes down the chute whenever you press the button.
But this is the problem when you go to Siri sometimes. Hi Siri, can you call Stockley Farm or Stockley Park?
Tell me about
it can be so simple in terms of. By the way, my Siri's going off 1 second. There we go.
Yeah.
You've got to be so careful with with these. I mean, we've actually got Keith Hackett on later in the show to discuss VAR. So that was a couple of the decisions. Of course, we touched on the Liverpool one.
Aston Villa's goal disallowed.
Yes.
I mean, this again was just nuts. I thought. Well, it was, go on, talk us through that one again, Rich. Which is basically, obviously, the guy went up, keeper comes out, a little bit of a nudge, and they go, "Oh, well, that's got to be a free kick." I'm sorry, if that's a free kick, then we might as well just.
No, I'm you're talking to an ex-goalkeeper here, so this is where but this is the point.
You're made of glass, aren't you?
Well, I think it is a foul because do you know what? I read this, and this is me being a goalkeeper at the time who got challenged a lot aerially, and so the rules are that if you get challenged when you're in the air, it is a foul. But
what if the ball comes? Just what happened, really, which is the ball comes over the top. You're not really looking at the keeper per se. You're jumping up.
It's relevant. I'll tell you what.
You're already in the air, and then the keeper gets in the air.
I'll tell you what it is when you're jumping up, you imagine, and I'll ask everybody to do this, apart from if you're driving, because it could be really dangerous, but you put your hands in the air, and they only need to nudge your arm like 2 centimetres, and you drop the ball.
Yeah.
So that's the point. But that's the point. So that's a foul. That's it. And so the amount of times I see that where it can be such minimal contact, and of course every outfield player, it's a fair challenge. Well, no, if you're jumping with your hands, it's a different type of challenge, and the rules state that is a foul. That was the only one I agreed with. But then again, I'm an ex-goalkeeper, so of course I agreed with it.
Yeah.
Every other one, I thought they got what were we talking? 4, 5?
Well, that was it. So 5 decisions checked by VAR in just one afternoon, and depending on whether or not you're Rich Lee, 4 or 5 of them were the incorrect decision. And it does beg the question, like, what are the rules with it? Because that was just an absolute disgrace, what went on yesterday, on numerous counts. If you're a Liverpool fan, you're going to be absolutely fuming. Same if you're Sean Dyche, although he always sounds a bit angry, doesn't he? And the list goes on. It was just bonkers.
See, I enjoy Dyche's interviews, though, because he's got that calm, passive-aggressive nature, which is quite nice to listen to, where he's saying all the things that are basically saying you're an idiot, but he's doing it in such a calm way and with authority. He's got a nice way about him.
You wouldn't want to kind of like... He's the type of person that that you see at a hotel reception when someone's got their room wrong. You know, and he's just there going, look, I don't know if this might be beyond your capabilities, but if you could just put me in the room that I'm doing well I wanted, then that'd be lovely.
Well, let's hear from Sean Dyche on the ref.
And the referee can't say to my staff, look, tolerate it if I need to go and see the screen with an incident like that. Because for me, if they want the referee to control the game, which we've been told they do, and VAR should be high tolerance, as they call it, well, then don't say it and then don't do it. He should at least come over and say, look, I'm going to have a look at this. He was 50 yards away from it, mind you.
I mean, great example. Just dropping that one in at the end. He was 50 yards away from it. It's that nice passive-aggressive nature. Like just very calm. So he's not said anything, or he's not saying it in such a way where he's emotional and anyone can be like, yeah, Sean Dyche lost his head. He's saying all the stuff that he should be saying in a much more enraged fashion.
Yeah. I think the thing is with Sean Dyche is that he always sounds a little bit like he's on the edge of chinning someone.
Oh yeah, and he has done forever. Since
Have you ever seen him chin anyone?
No, because this is where he's quite clever. Though, I'll give you a bit of a sort of idea of what he's like as a character, and it was one where. So back in the day, he was the guy that turns up at training every single day wearing trainers, jeans, and a t-shirt. Pretty much the same stuff every day, and come in and hammer every single player. And he would just talk incessantly in that voice as well. And because he's so deep and he's got such a loud voice, there was no point ever entering an argument with him because you weren't necessarily going to lose because you were wrong. You were going to lose because he would out-talk you. He was kind of that character. Very frustrating character at times.
He's like the Remainers at the minute, where the Brexiteers are going, I think you don't mind it. And they just keep talking and hope that you get tired and or maybe die, and then they win.
Wear you down. Very funny guy, though. Like, he was very, very funny. There was a story, which I'll tell in a second, in a minute, in regards to, we have a fine committee, and there was always a court of law every Friday, and in particular one Friday when he lost. But I've got a feeling you're going to want to go to something. Am I right or wrong?
Well, I think we just got some more Sean Dyche, have we? Talking about how they lost.
No, I'll be down the pub, probably.
Dude, where has that come from?
Go on. So it's just that classic, isn't it? What's Sean going to be doing now? Sean, are you going to be sitting there analysing the footage? Oh, it's a struggle, isn't it? I think we'll done that. Sorry.
No, so Daishi, the story I was going to tell was in regards to, we always did a court of law every Friday. So this was kind of like a standard thing that you do at most football clubs. You have a fine committee, and of course on that fine committee, it would be for basic things, like if you're late in the morning, or if you're late for a game, or if you wear certain items of clothing, or forget your shin pads in training. There was one particular time with Sean Dyche where he was, I can't even remember what the fine was for, but the court of law was me on the prosecution, him as the defendant. So it was always going to be a tough case, but thankfully I put forward a really good case. I won. He then owed £50. And let's just say that he had the £50 on him the entire time, and he presented me with that £50, and I had to fish that 50. Yeah. Probably not this time in the morning, is it really?
Well, I think it's pretty par for the course for us, to be fair.
I mean, look, we're past 7 o'clock now. We're past the watershed, so...
If you're eating your breakfast while you're listening to us, why? You know us by now.
Oh, very, very true. But no, he was. I mean, look, for what it's worth, the way in which he's, or Burnley are going, it's a shame because they actually did deserve something against Leicester. They've actually had another good start to the season, and I didn't last season, but this season they look strong again. And they are now, like, I know they had a brilliant season before, obviously escaped relegation last season. You look at them now, they are an established Premier League team.
Yeah, they are, and he's done very well there. Look, the overarching point here is that VAR has just been like an ocean-going disaster, hasn't it? I don't think we're asking for too much. We're not. We're asking if something is so blindingly obvious that, like, Steve down the pub after 15 pints can go, that's a penalty, and it's true, then I'm pretty sure that the actual expert should be able to get it right.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, we're going to be talking very shortly to Gab Sutton from the Football Lab, because, of course, there was a full list of fixtures in the Championship, League One and League Two.
Yeah, can we also just quickly touch on England's rugby heroics?
We can. Well, we're going to be speaking to Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator, in about half an hour, so no doubt we'll go into a bit of detail then, because England were fantastic.
Yeah, they were, but, I mean, England beat Australia 40-16, but don't care about that. What I care about is that Eddie Jones and Michael Checker, the Australian coach, I mean, the hatred is so real it hurts. There's some brilliant quotes here. Eddie Jones going, it's not my job to have sympathy for someone. Checker resigns, right, then digs out all of the board of Australian selectors. So he goes, I don't talk to the CEO, and I don't talk much to the chairman. I knew from the final whistle I just wanted to give it time to cool down. I'm off. I'm resigning. Just burns his bridges on the way out as well. Eddie Jones just sat there like...
But that's Checker. That's what he's done the last few weeks. Not just the last few weeks, in fact. That's him. He bites so hard.
But exactly, that's it. Eddie Jones just goes, I just fancy a little bit of fishing. I'm just going to cast the rod. Oh, caught a Checker. There we go. Come on, mate. In we come, put you with all the others. There you go.
Great stuff. Look, we're going to be speaking to Gab Sutton, and I'm delighted to hear that Sean Dyche is listening in, and I believe he is enjoying the show.
No, Alan. If you mess with the USA, I guarantee they'll be held to pay.
This is Love Sport. The Novotel London Blackfriars, the official hotel partner of Love Sport. Located just minutes away from the city, and London's famous South Bank. You can kick back and taste the flavours of the world at the Jamboree Bar and Grill and enjoy all the sights of London in style. The Novotel London Blackfriars.
You all right, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it, sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Love Sport. Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. We're going to be speaking to Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator shortly, because, of course, it was a great weekend for England and Wales in the end. However, now we're going to be rounding up the EFL action from the weekend, and who better to do it than the expert himself, Mr. Gab Sutton. Morning, Gab.
Morning, folks. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, good, thanks. Hope you're well. Want to just quickly touch on a game that took place yesterday. It doesn't necessarily involve our London clubs, but a surprising result. Accrington Stanley beating Ipswich yesterday, top of the table Ipswich as well. Good win for Accrington Stanley.
Yeah, absolutely. You've really got to admire John Coleman's ability to sort of get the best out of his resources, because I think if you look at the sort of respective sizes of the two clubs, you've got Ipswich that had been the longest-serving club in the Championship until their relegation last season. Accrington, for a long time, historically, they were actually doing very well to stay in League Two, let alone stay in League One. So performing well above their means. But I'm a huge admirer of John Coleman and Dewey Bell. Found a real gem in Colby Bishop, who they signed from Leamington, a few divisions below, and he's been a real hit for them.
So I want to touch on a few of the teams in the Championship. Of course, another interesting weekend in the Championship. And I know we spoke yesterday briefly, but Charlton, got to talk about them again. 3-0 winners against Derby County. Derby, who haven't got off to the best of starts, of course, not as strong as last season you'd feel, having lost the likes of Mount, Tamori, etc. They find themselves in 15th now. But Charlton, with that win, are in 7th. They are level on points with Preston in 6th. 3-0, very convincing. And although they've got one of the smaller budgets in the league, they seem to have a style of play that's really working for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, actually, because Charlton recruited quite late. I mean, going into for much of July, you're looking at their squad and felt that, are they going to have enough cover? But evidently they've had a really close-knit group, and players like Darren Pratley, who I must admit going into the season, I wasn't sure whether he was still sort of Championship calibre at sort of mid-30s. He's actually been a real strong presence for the Addicts this season, and he's helped the likes of Tom Lockyer, who stepped up from League One after a few years with Bristol Rovers. You're looking at Dylan Phillips, who was sort of in goal for the second half of last season for Charlton, so he's been very good at Championship level as well. And of course, they scored 3 goals without Lyle Taylor, which shows they are able to spread the goals around. So really satisfying afternoon for Lee Bowyer and another step towards 50 points.
Yeah, indeed. I want to talk about Luton as well. Luton, first clean sheet for them. They did beat Bristol City 3-0. I was actually at this game myself, and unfortunately there is some more alleged racism, this time from the Bristol City fans. So we'll see how that one plays out. But first clean sheet for Luton. Interestingly, it was the first game of the season for goalkeeper James O'Shea as well, who, of course, played last season in the League One campaign. Did very, very well. Hasn't played this season, but he made his first appearance, and that's a big win for Luton.
Yeah, it was James Shea who played, and I think Simon Sluga came in for a little bit of criticism after signing for Luton's record transfer fee. Made one or two errors, and maybe it was a good thing for Graham Jones to take Sluga out of the limelight a little bit and perhaps give Shea a run in the side as he had been there last season. But I think the crucial thing for Luton is they're starting to get players back fit, and they're starting to have the options to use the systems that Graham Jones wants. I mean, he was able to use the diamond system today with Martin Craney coming back to full fitness, and he was able to play at the base. So a lot of really positive signs. And I think Izzy Brown has been a really excellent addition. I mean, you remember how well he played for Huddersfield in their promotion from this level a couple of seasons ago. He was often off the bench at times, but now he's starting to show that he can make a real asset or be a real asset at Championship level from the outset games, not just from the bench.
We've got to talk about our AFC Wimbledon. Of course, a dramatic late winner for them. Thomas in the 93rd minute. Big win against Portsmouth as well. They're actually on the up, aren't they, Wimbledon? Find themselves outside of the relegation zone now for the first time this season, and things looking a bit more positive. Of course, Glyn Hodges currently in charge.
Yeah, well, actually, last night Wally Downs has left his role as manager, so I think it's been a very long-term association, Wally Downs and Wimbledon. Of course, he was one of the people credited with sort of cultivating the crazy gang all those years ago, and now, and of course, he played a massive role in keeping Wimbledon up last season when he took over, they looked very likely to go down. So I think a lot of credit has to go to him for the work he did there, but at the same time, he has breached rules allegedly with the things that he's done, and I suppose it was difficult for it to end any other way, which is unfortunate. But I think Glyn Hodges has done superbly well in perhaps an awkward interim period, and I think he did it for the job full time.
Yeah, another team on the up who are now only 2 points off the playoffs are Leyton Orient. And, of course, they have a new manager, a manager we interviewed actually on the show back end of last week. And what a win they had. 4-0 away at Grimsby, Leyton Orient.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you've got to credit Ross Embleton in terms of the work that he's done in the interim period after such difficult circumstances in the summer. I think it's interesting, actually, because Leyton Orient's form was actually better after Ross Embleton confirmed that he wouldn't be taking the job permanently and that it'd be going to somebody else. Since that news, they've won something like 1-3 and drawn 1 or something along those lines. So it's clearly sort of taken the pressure off Embleton a little bit. And I'm glad, because he's such a sort of selfless character. He always seems to put the club first. He's very open, perhaps, when he makes one or two tactical decisions that he felt he got wrong. And I really like that in a manager, because he takes responsibility for himself. So hopefully he can have a really key role at Leyton Orient, even though Carl Fletcher is the manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Gab, appreciate you joining us.
All right, cheers, folks.
That's Gab Sutton there, the Football Lab, owner of the Football Lab. A couple of other results I'll touch on with you, Mr. Patrick Christys. Stoke had another win, beat Fulham 2-0, back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, things looking up for Nathan Jones. Fascinating. Middlesbrough struggling down the bottom of the league, losing to West Brom 1-0. QPR, 5th in the table. Mark Warburton doing a fantastic job. A 3-2 win away at Hull. Arguably the game of the weekend, though. Brentford-Millwall. 6 minutes to go, Millwall are 2-0 up at Brentford. What happens? 3 goals in 6 minutes for Brentford. They end up winning 3. Classic bees. So a big weekend for Brentford. A damaging defeat for Millwall, though, you feel. Always fascinating in the Championship, isn't it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it is the most exciting league for me, actually. I know the Premier League does quite a good job of it, but in the Championship, every single week there's upsets. Every single week there's someone like a manager like a Nathan Jones coming out just telling us all he's played roulette with his family's lives and he's very, very sorry and he wishes that he'd never been born. And then all of a sudden he's just got back-to-back wins and he's going to get manager of the month, isn't he?
We're talking about Warren Gatland, who had his resignation speech planned pretty much during the game. He's going through the emotions. Wales look like they're going to lose to France. Of course, get the late try and end up winning. And it's the same thing that's happened with Nathan Jones. He has twice come out and given a resignation speech, and they haven't sacked him. And now he's gone and won back-to-back games.
Yeah, it's magnificent, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing.
But it's weird, though, because every time I've given a resignation speech, they've just accepted it.
It's so strange.
Yeah,
Sometimes even when I haven't, they still...
Sometimes I've been made to give a resignation speech.
It's incredibly
Bizarre.
concerning. Well, look, on that note, to an extent, this is actually a poor segue, but I'm going to run with it anyway. Because we are going to move on to some front page stuff.
Oh, goody.
Which, of course, is your speciality. Of course, you very tuned in when it comes to your sporting knowledge as well. But, of course, we know that you know everything that's going on the front pages, in particular with Brexit. Yeah. We're going to be talking about that next. But just want to tee us up for what we're going to be talking about?
Well, I mean, the light was at the end of the tunnel, wasn't it? Boris Johnson had done the unthinkable and got us a Brexit deal with the EU. The EU were happy. Boris is happy. Most Tories are happy. Even the right wing of the Tory party were happy. And then it went to Parliament on Super Saturday, the least inspiring Super Saturday since Hull Southampton. And in the end, they decided that they wanted to knock it back through some kind of legal technicality. It's just that it's all right it's all right for these politicians who are on 80 odd grand a year because they don't feel, and with a comprehensive expenses package, they don't feel the pinch when it comes to this. It doesn't bother them when this rumbles on and on and on. It bothers real people out there because some bloke called Sir Oliver Letwin, who has got a smile that makes you want to punch through a wall, right? Because of him, now we've got to delay. And John Bercow, the dumpy despot who's in charge of our Parliament, who's the Speaker of the House of Commons, he's now going to deny today the chance to vote on this Brexit deal again. So we have a Parliament, Rich, put it this way, this is the best way of putting it. We have a Parliament, right, that won't vote through a Brexit deal, that's blocking no deal, and won't let us have a general election. I haven't got a swear word inventive enough to describe that lot.
Do you know what it's like? It's like the kid at Christmas, and he's waiting for the toy. Little Johnny, waiting for his toy. And you don't know if your dad's going to be able to Santa. You don't know if Santa's going to be able to get the toy or not. And then you hear that Santa is going to be able to get the toy. And just as you're about to be presented with a toy, you get a call from the manufacturer. There's an issue back at the plant.
One of the
elves. We need to recall the toy back to Lapland. Is that where they live?
Yeah.
We need to recall the toy back to Lapland.
Yeah, the elf got it mixed up with the batch he was planning on sending to a kid in Colombia, and that package needs to go back straight away. Don't let little Johnny open that.
And there you go. It was so close. I could see the toy. Oh, Santa. 29 minutes past 7.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family contents insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com. When it came for this year's renewal, I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. Told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Now, we have gone through the back pages in detail. We're going to be doing that a little bit more. But first, we're going to go through the front pages because I know you've just given a little bit of a feel as to where your head is at in regards to what's happened over the last few days. Of course, Saturday, the first Saturday Parliament for a long time.
Well, since the Falklands War, since we sent the RGs packing. So, look, okay, Boris Johnson was told by everyone that he was never going to get a Brexit deal. Everyone was saying, the smart money is in that Boris Johnson wants a no deal, okay? And this is what was happening. Now, I don't mind saying this because I've been on Sky News a few times talking about this, and I've actually been saying this for the last 2 months, which is that Boris does want a deal, and the idea that he doesn't is nonsense. And then, I hate to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet a little bit, but he went and got a deal, didn't he? That's happened now.
You're basically blowing your own trumpet.
Went and got a deal. So he came back to Parliament with a deal, and it is a better version of Theresa May's deal. He again did what people said could not be done. So the issue that we had before was that when we do leave, we have a transition period. And this is until December 2020. Now, what Theresa May's deal got wrong, in many people's opinions, was that if no working trading relationship between the European Union and the UK can be drawn up within that transition period, then the backstop position would be that we stayed in the customs union and stayed in the single market, which of course stops us going out and freely trading with the rest of the world and basically isn't very Brexity for a lot of people. Now, what Boris Johnson did was basically nullify that, which is an incredible achievement, to be fair, on the floppy-haired maestro. That is a fantastic achievement and one that many people didn't think could be done. So he did that. So we would end up in a situation where what are the two main things for Brexiteers? Immigration and being able to trade freely with the rest of the world. Now, he presented a deal that did that, right? So, okay, it was not the best deal in the world, but it's all right. So, finally, I think the nation pretty much breathed a bit of a sigh of relief because there was enough about it for Remainers to be relatively happy, enough about it for Brexiteers to be relatively happy. Right, let's just wash our hands of this and move on. So he goes to Parliament, Super Saturday, they bill it, MPs come in. Started with an MP complaining about the fact that the taxpayer should pay for his childcare.
Incredible.
You're on 80 odd grand a week, mate. It's the first Saturday.
A year. I mean, that's footballers'
wages.
wages.
Yeah, you're on 80 odd grand a year. And anyway, Neymar just rocked up. and just complained. And then he fell over on the floor, holding his face, and we all went home. He's on 80 odd grand a year. The things I have personally seen MPs put on expenses is absolutely laughable. Yeah. Right? Is childcare for a day, the first day since the Falklands War that you're sitting on side, just manage. Just manage. Anyway, Labour MP, by the way, classic, always got the hand out. And so anyway, Boris Johnson goes to Parliament, and then he's scuppered. So they basically wanted to delay the fact that we could vote on this Brexit deal. So finally, after years, we have a workable Brexit deal. So that's the point, that we currently have a Parliament that isn't allowing us to pass a Brexit deal, isn't allowing us to leave with no deal, and isn't allowing us to have a general election. So the idea that we live in a democracy is just shot. It's gone. Is it that we do a very good turn in this country of digging out places like Russia and China and all these places where, all human rights and it's all a rigged system. Well, we need to look a bit closer to home, I'm afraid, because this is absolutely laughable at the moment what's going on. So, in a nutshell, Boris Johnson might try and put the deal back to a vote today, but John Bercow, the Speaker of the House of Commons, who's supposed to be politically neutral, who has a, can I say that? B word to Brexit, anyway, sticker on his car, so it's not really neutral, gets to decide whether or not we can vote on it today. And the rumours are that we won't be able to vote on it. So we're just trapped in this kind of time warp of misery.
But what then happens if there is a delay? By the way, I'm actually warming to Boris. I wanted to tell you that. I meant to say that privately. Yeah, I'm starting to warm. Just for no reason other than I get a nice fight. I think he does genuinely want the best for people. I'm starting to feel that from him. And I don't think that's necessarily the case with certain other leaders. So, all right, so let's say that then what then happens? I saw the letter that was then sent, no signature, which was big news as well. So that's obviously got... So what now? If the EU grant the delay?
So... The European Union now has to decide whether or not to give us an extension. Now, all 27 EU countries have to unanimously agree to that. Now, the rumours are that France, despite the fact that they're essentially our age-old enemy, might actually come to the rescue here. They might veto it. Strong rumours about Hungary as well, and a couple of other smaller nations. Don't make a joke about that.
I won't.
All right.
I just
Because
can't
you've had
help
your
it.
breakfast, so we're
Yeah,
not
I know,
anymore.
I
Yeah, I
know,
know. I can read you like a book,
Sorry,
mate.
go on, carry on.
So, unless it's your book, in which case I'm definitely not reading it.
That's harsh.
Sorry. So, they get to veto this potentially, or they vote it through. Now, this is where we are, which is that if they veto it, then the default position is still no deal, and we get no deal on the 31st of October. So we're in a bit of a situation here that frankly, I think everyone in the country just wants this over with now, and our MPs aren't letting us do it.
Yeah, no, it's something that's been consuming my thoughts for years now. So the moment we move through this, so is there a chance that we will have a general election?
Well, so what Jeremy Corbyn's saying is that he won't give us a general election until Boris Johnson completely and utterly removes no deal, takes no deal off the table. So unless Boris Johnson does that, which he absolutely won't, then we won't get a general election. So
we are just in limbo then.
Jeremy Corbyn asked for a general election 22 times under Theresa May's government. At the time that they refused it, right, under Boris Johnson recently, Labour had a petition on their website calling for a general election.
Right.
And now they're refusing to have a general election.
Is this because he knows he'll lose?
Well, this is the thing that at the moment he doesn't fancy taking him on because he obviously does think he would lose. But that's not really the point. That's not really how this country works, is it? You know, and this is where I want to just say, like, you have to seriously question where their heads are at as MPs and as politicians, because until we sort Brexit, we don't deal with things like violent knife crime. We don't deal with things like the NHS, the education system. And this is what's really, really winding me up now, that you've got a bunch of people there who sit down and claim to represent. They are paid handsomely to represent the people.
Yeah.
And they're shirking their responsibility.
But that is the issue for me, and I am very aware of that it is, of course. I mean, how much time is this taking for the government? We're talking, it's got to be the majority, right? It's pretty much every single day it is front page of the papers, something's being discussed, and there's so many other things going on that are just being left to rot, and there's so many issues right now.
You know what it is? So at the weekend, they had rumours where it was 1 million. I think it was probably about half that. People calling for a second referendum outside Parliament. And I'll tell you, I've got a theory on this, that a lot of the politicians in that room were very unpopular at school. They were always the geeky one. And they went to university and they were very unpopular at university. And they couldn't realise where everyone else was doing things like drinking and having sex and having fun. And they weren't, right? And then they started leaving that, and they went into the workplace. And in that workplace, they were deeply unpopular there as well, because they were regarded as quite smarmy in the fact that the double-breasted jacket didn't work. And now, for the very first time in their lives, when they walk into work, they've got tens of thousands of people going, yeah, you stop Brexit, yeah! And they've just got absolutely drunk on it. They've just got drunk on it. For the first time in their lives, the kind of smarmy, drip, spreadsheet-esque figures of these people who are normally, you know, the type of people that, like, they only ever have polite conversation with their wives. You know, right, lights off, Maureen. That kind of thing. Now, for the very first time, they've got a few people stood outside telling them they agree with them, and they think that they've got to ride this wave, and they get drunk on it, and they forget that there's a bigger picture here.
Like producer Kieran.
Yeah. Where is he, by the way?
Probably doing all those things you just named.
Right.
Fantastic. We do need Patrick Christys Britain. We do need that. We need that as a theme tune, and you just to go off on a rant like that. I do enjoy it. It gets me a bit stirred up.
But this is the thing. People can overcomplicate this, in my opinion. You have a lot of people here who, but genuinely, have spent so long around Westminster and are so used to being so deeply unpopular in every single facet of their lives that they now cannot let go of the fact that a few people are egging them on, and they completely lose sight of what the wider country wants.
Yeah, they weren't the cool kids like you. How was ballet when you were younger, by the way?
Yeah, almost as good as figure skating, mate. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, do you know, I'm actually intrigued by this. At some point, I want to go into detail about this, because you were really good.
I'm all right.
You told me you were really good.
Yeah, I'm still pretty good.
Yeah, ice skating, figure skating. Yeah. Do you have any video footage?
No, it would be weird if I did, wouldn't it? I think I was 8.
Yeah, there would have been not really the phones then to do that. No. Let's move back to a little bit of sport. Let's go to the back page. Unless you have more front page news you want to share.
What, mate? I'm sick of it.
Okay.
I'm sick of it.
Let's talk back pages then.
You know what? I just want to close out by saying Guy Fawkes was right. Anyway, right.
On that note. What are the back pages? I see Jurgen Stropp.
Oh, Jurgen Stropp. So look, it was probably the worst weekend, I think, for VAR. I think there was about 5 decisions that were absolute shockers. And, okay, all right, I'm a United fan, but I think if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be quite annoyed. A foul by Lindelof on Origi in the build-up to United's first goal. Just was a foul, I think, the general consensus is. VAR decided that it's not. United draw 1-1. But, can we actually just talk about the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did Jurgen Klopp tactically?
He did, didn't he?
He did.
So, okay, from where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was before the game yesterday to where he is now, how much has his stock risen?
Well, massively. And look at the difference, right? Because before, look, we all know, I don't need to bore anyone with the details of how critical most people were of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before that game. What a difference a game makes. You've got Darren Fletcher, you've got Darren Murphy as well, who's after the game, and they're treating him like it's the second coming.
Yeah, what a difference a game makes. Mm-hmm. Let's hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He says he deserved more than 1 point.
I'm disappointed because I thought the effort they put in, and the fans, of course, because they deserved more than the 1 point, I felt. And when it's towards the end of the game, it feels worse as well. Yeah, they put us under pressure towards the end, but I didn't feel that they created too many chances, and we soaked the pressure up really well. One lack of concentration, and it's a goal, and that's the level we're at.
That is the level they're at. And there's different ways of viewing this. I see some of the papers are going down the route of this is Liverpool title winning. They're not playing brilliantly, but they're grinding out results. No?
No.
Just no.
Well, it's not the case, is it?
Well, you could look at it. They've played 9 games. They've won 8, drawn 1. Did they deserve to win all 8 of those games? I'd say no. I'd say they deserve 5/6. Did they deserve to get a draw yesterday? I mean, again, different ways to look at it, because some people could say, well, United really, that was just a containment job second half. And you can see how frustrated Jurgen Klopp was getting on the sideline, which United fans would have absolutely loved. But tactically, it was perfect up till the 80th minute. And by the way, as soon as Liverpool scored, I did then think that Liverpool were going to get the winner, which credit to United then for holding out the last few minutes. But in the end, given that we were talking about this, in fact, we were talking about it on the show yesterday, and there was a comment from Graham Souness saying that if United were to have won, it would have been the biggest upset since Wigan beat Man City in the FA Cup final. Now, look, nonsense comment, of course, but the point is that United was such underdogs going into this, which is crazy to think at Old Trafford. I think the bookies had them at 5-1. So to get the draw is a very positive day for Man United.
Yeah, it was. And the thing was, is that it was a very novel lineup from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You'd got very, very long odds on that happening. So just run through this formation that he did, right? So 3 at the back.
Well, just quickly, because of course Twanzebe was injured in the warm-up, which again was a little spanner in the works.
Exactly, and Rojo had to come in. Yeah. So you got De Gea, who, by the way, thought he was out for 2 months.
Incredible.
What's going on?
Lazarus.
And he won, what? Can we just... What? What is that?
That was got to be some mind games.
Was that? Do you reckon Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's just done everyone?
I think he has. Nightmare. Too much. Brilliant acting from Solskjaer.
Fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, David De Gea in net, weirdly. Lindelof, Maguire and Rojo at the back. Now, I actually can't really remember, sure someone will correct me on this on Twitter, but can't really remember the last time United started with an overt back 3. It's just, that's not usual, right? Then you've got Wan-Bissaka, Ashley Young, Fred and McTominay as a wall of 4 in front of those back 3.
That worried me, the Fred McTominay.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
It's shocking. It was like, you remember that dam in Derbyshire that nearly burst?
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Then you got Pereira, who also, that kid, it just sounds like a bottle of fizzy water. Daniel James and Marcus Rashford up front. The anti-goal and a bloke who spends more time on the floor than a ground-up. So, you've got all those there, and you think, right, they're going to get done. And Solskjaer did him.
I wanted to ask you about Rashford, because you've been critical of him previously. What did you make of him yesterday?
He was willing. He was very willing. I thought he...
Mark out of 10?
6.5.
See, I'd give him an 8. I thought he was very, very good yesterday.
What was the best thing about him for you? Go on, because you were a footballer. Your opinion counts more than mine.
No, for me, he looked bright. I think the England game would have helped him. I think that the England game, he was brilliant in the England game, I thought, and I thought he took that into this game. He looked more confident, his body language was good, his movement was good, nice finish on the goal. I don't know, that's the Marcus Rashford that we need to see more consistently. That's what I felt.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It was decent, but what happened there was that United squeezed out Liverpool, and Liverpool couldn't really respond, and what they ended up doing was pushing Henderson forward and pushing Wijnaldum forward and trying to pin Young and Wan-Bissaka back. And what was really reassuring for me was the way that United continued to take risks, actually. And even though they go, United were very defensive and Liverpool had 68% possession, United had 7 shots to Liverpool's 10. Right? Not bad.
Indeed. Well, look, we're going to move on. We're going to talk a bit of rugby. We're going to be speaking to Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator, after this.
If it ain't broke, break it. Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Can you save money on your energy bills? Tony did, with help from a spokesman said.com. Getting people real savings.
I'm Tony from Northampton. My bills for gas and electricity had gone straight through the roof. I chose...
Saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz.
Caffeine kicks in.
If you haven't...
It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
Love sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. We've gone through the front pages. We spoke a bit of football. Now, of course, it's time to speak a bit of rugby because it was a big weekend in the world of rugby. Delighted to say we've got Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator, on the line. Morning, Sam.
How are we?
Well, we're very well, and I'm assuming you're pretty well too, because it was a fantastic weekend of rugby action.
You couldn't move for rugby action. It was all over the place, and 4 quarterfinals that I think delivered all the agony and ecstasy that you could possibly want from a World Cup.
Well, look, let's start with the main one. England sinking the Aussies. Fantastic, yet again. Just talk us through it and some standout performance for you and where the game was won and lost.
Oh, I think across the park, England did a real job. I mean, as it was quite close. You know, England certainly saw that Australia meant business, and it wasn't really until Kyle Sinclair, of all people, sort of scampered clear like a hippopotamus who had his bottom smacked. You know, he was through the gap and away, and then smiling over the line. It was absolutely wonderful. And then the sort of the appliance of pressure, Alan Farrell's boot, and England sort of seemed to sort of canter away. I was a little bit disappointed that sort of Australia wilted somewhat, and you know, there's some major players in there that I was very disappointed wouldn't have got their go. David Pocock and Christian Leofano have been absolutely wonderful, both on and off the field for Australia, and I think they'll be a little bit disappointed they didn't quite come to the party in the way that they would have wanted to. But England won't care a single jot. They seem to have used their extra time away from the World Cup because of their cancellation of their match against France. They seem to have used it superbly and came out of the blocks brilliantly, fizzing, and it is all set up for next Saturday, which is going to be stupendously huge.
Exactly, and Kyle Sinclair, regarded by many as the hero, certainly one of the heroes, was described as an emotional time bomb by Warren Gatland.
Yeah.
This was shortly before he actually conceded 2 quick penalties against Wales, grabbed Alan Wynne-Jones by the neck, and then was sent off. So what's happened with him? Because it must take a lot for Eddie Jones to trust this guy in a quarter-final of a World Cup after his hot-headed antics have cost the team before.
Yeah, I think he's kind of matured into things. I think the people around him have sort of chiseled away at him and just sort of brought him into the way. He always had the talent and still does have the talent. He's a gloriously skillful big man. And, you know, there's wonderful stories about him turning up for Battle of the Ironsides down in London with, you know, a football shirt on and wanting to play 10. And here he is at tight head for England now. And he's always had the skill, but there's always been this element of sort of mercurial nature to him. And I think what he's done is he's just learned. He's listened and he's learned, and he's just brought his game onto the right level for where Eddie Jones sort of wants it. And I thought it was wonderful to see him sort of unlocking the door for England.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the old rivalry was reignited. The touch paper was lit with Eddie Jones and Michael Cheika, and clearly there was only going to be one winner. 7-0 now for Eddie Jones. We like it. But he was asked after the game, I just want you to have a listen to this, he was asked after the game if he had any sympathy for Cheika, and here's what he had to say.
Look, it's tough when you lose a game, and particularly at this level of the World Cup. At this moment, not a lot of sympathy, no, because I'm enjoying the win, and I think I'm allowed to enjoy the win. Maybe later in the week I might, so ask me that later in the week.
Yeah, well, just talk us through, because Cheika's gone, hasn't he, now?
Yeah, he has. He's sort of thrown in the towel and said enough is enough. These Australians, I mean, you think they hate us. My God, they hate each other even more. You know, they're extraordinarily competitive. You know, both of them desperate to win. And Eddie Jones's competitive nature is kind of one of the driving forces behind England at the moment. And you hear it there. Yeah, I suppose he's right. You know, right after the game, do you have any? Well, there was another one. The French coach was asked, you know, did he think that Wales were any good to win the World Cup? And he said, I don't care. You know, right after a game, these people are bleeding, and I'm not sure you'll get too much sportsmanship out of them. I really don't.
Yeah, well, let's just go on with a little bit about Wales, actually, because the French bottled it, didn't they? Sorry, I'm just being very mean to the French today. I should have warned you before. This is the latest in a long list of very, very provocative slurs about the French. So sorry about that, mate. You're involved now, crucially. You're involved. So.
I'm an accomplice. I'm a willing accomplice. Okay. Well, look, I mean, you're absolutely right. You know what it reminded me of? The extraordinary situation. If you were watching the game, you couldn't help but notice this extraordinary red card. It kind of reminded me of Zinedine Zidane, and just that moment that French sportsmen can sometimes do something that absolutely no one understands. And much like the headbutt in the World Cup, in the Football World Cup, this elbow was so glaringly obvious and so sort of unmitigatingly sort of saying, "I want to be sent off." You know, it was extraordinary, and I don't quite know how France have dealt with him or dealt with it, other than just sort of done that sort of Gallic shrug of the shoulders. But you know, it was an utterly brainless act, which unfortunately undid all of the wonderful work that France had done up to that point. They were absolutely superb.
Well, is that kind of, you know, we speak about France like it's so hot and cold in how they are, but that was a great example. Like, they were in control, comfortably in control. When you saw it again, I mean, it was bizarre. When they showed the replay and they showed the Welsh fans, the moment that you saw him do the elbow and the reaction from everyone was like, oh my God, what have you just done?
Well, you've got to send him off. I know, it was absolutely extraordinary. You know, I as I say, it took some digesting at the time, just how bad it was. It wasn't. You know, sometimes you see these moments in sport, you think, oh well, there's obviously a moment of contention. There was no contention here whatsoever. And you know, as you say, it was heartbreaking because France had started so exceptionally well. The score, the Olivon score, the second try that they had was beautiful, was as good a rugby try as you will see in the World Cup. And they were crafting, they were going about it so well. And they sort of just literally said, you know what, Wales, you take it from here. I mean, Wales struggled. They struggled to get past them in the end. And it was only until about sort of 5 minutes to go that they actually eventually got what they needed to get. And even that try came with some contention. But Wales somehow know how to win. And you look at qualities in any sport, if you can win when you shouldn't really, that is something. And Wales have got it at the moment.
Yeah, well, I loved how calm the referee was actually on when it was the red card. But he still took his time to explain it to him. And it was like, look, it's a blatant elbow. Look, we're going to have to go to the news in a second. But just a quick word on Japan before we do go to the news. Of course, their run comes to an end against the Springboks. But it's been a fantastic World Cup so far. And in fairness, they've done themselves huge credit.
They have done themselves huge credit, but it was just a step too far. This was a mean, lean green machine in South Africa. They were absolutely huge, and they just pummeled Japan. And for all their movement, all their speed, Japan just couldn't muster the sort of size of the task that South Africa were in front of them. And I don't know if you know or if you recognise it, but South Africa versus Wales is going to be gruesome. As much as England versus New Zealand next Saturday is going to be wonderful, there is an absolute arm wrestle that's going to take place between those two sides. The semi-finals are going to be unmissable.
Great stuff. It's funny you mentioned lean, mean, green machine. It reminds me of my co-presenter, but that's more due to dietary choices than anything else. Sam, as always, do appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Sam Roberts there, BT Sport rugby commentator. You also mentioned the hippopotamus with a bottom slapped. Again, I don't know why it reminds me of you. It's really weird. So strange. Word association.
Sometimes, Rich, I hope you don't wake up in the morning.
Wow. That's a level too far.
I want you to know I mean that. I want you to know that.
Fine. Sticks and stones will... In fact, no words do hurt me, so that's absolute nonsense. I don't mean that at all. 3 minutes to 8.
This is Love Sport.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Not going to lie, I'm still reeling from Patrick's threat.
I've just been told to offer an on-air apology, but this time it's to you. So sorry.
What, for the death threat? Or
Yeah.
That thing that just
apparently, and I asked, was it to do with the time in the morning that I gave the death threat? And apparently, it's literally never okay.
No, any time of the day.
Any time, day or night.
No.
Death threats on air, not acceptable. So apologies, Rich. And look, we're learning, aren't we? We're learning.
Of course. Step by step, and these things. I mean, who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Well, certainly not me.
I mean, absolute
certainly not me.
Shocker. Should we talk about what we're coming up in the next hour?
Yeah. By the way, I went in to get my phone changed at the weekend, and she gave me a thing to test how good the signal would be where I live. And she went, "Oh, Ofcom do the breaks." I don't know if you know about Ofcom. I'm very familiar. I'm very familiar with Ofcom.
Very quickly, Ben Thornley coming up, Keith Hackett, and George Tutor as well.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 8, House of Commons Speaker John Bercow is expected to block another vote on the Prime Minister's Brexit deal. It's thought he'll rule Boris Johnson can't hold one today because MPs already considered it on Saturday. They passed an amendment which postponed approving it until the necessary Brexit laws are in place. Independent MP and former Tory Justine Greening says it should be put to the people.
Most countries that are doing a constitutional change would go through this process we're in now. The legislation would get through its parliament
tournament, but then people would decide whether or not they wanted to keep it or veto it, because then actually people can see the exact detail of what they're being asked to sign up to.
Prince Harry's spoken openly about the apparent rift with his brother, Prince William.
Inevitably, stuff happens, but look, we're brothers. We'll always be brothers. We're certainly on different paths at the moment, but I will always be there for him, and as I know he'll always be there for me. As brothers, you have good days, you have bad days.
He told the ITV documentary Harry and Meghan, An African Journey, that they don't see each other much because they're so busy. Harry also says Meghan revealed her friends warned her not to marry into the royal family. 2 men have been arrested over alleged racist comments which led to an FA Cup tie being abandoned at the weekend. Haringey Borough players walked off the field during their match with Yeovil. Same-sex marriage and abortion will become legal in Northern Ireland for the first time at midnight. It's after MPs at Westminster voted to decriminalise both unless a new power-sharing government's in place at Stormont. A tearful Andy Murray's won his first singles title since 2017. He beat Stan Wawrinka in the final of the European Open yesterday. And comedian Catherine Ryans revealed her boyfriend fought off a masked burglar at her London home. She says he managed to save her laptop containing all the scripts for her new TV show. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
Love sport.
Get the brands they love at littlewoods.com. Play FIFA 20 with friends. Get the Xbox One S dual controller bundle with FIFA 20 for an unmissable $199.99. All with inclusive delivery and free returns at littlewoods.com. Hurry, offer ends Thursday the 10th of October. Own it. Shop now at littlewoods.com.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Let's touch on those headlines this morning. VAR dominates the Premier League as it returns controversy in several of the games this weekend. England beat Australia, Wales beat France. We are in the semi-finals coming up next weekend in the rugby. Racist incidents again this weekend in the FA Cup qualifier between Haringey Borough and Yeovil Town. The teams were forced off due to that one. We're going to be speaking to the Haringey Borough manager shortly. The 100 draft took place last night, and Andy Murray was successful, his first victory since having major hip surgery.
Let's start with that.
Let's start with that, and also I want to talk as well, for those who haven't seen it, Pogba arrived yesterday at the game with his walking stick.
Yes.
Which was just quite a good look. I quite liked it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was expecting it to have like a fur jacket with it.
Yeah.
Maybe him swinging the walking stick next to him. It's got like a diamond encrusted tip.
I mean, it's a nice walking stick, but I feel like he could have gone a little bit more. Could have been maybe gold plated.
Looks like he's doing it to promote his new album, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But
yeah, let's talk about Murray. Let's do that.
Because actually, look, Andy Murray, it's easy to give a bit of stick to Murray, isn't it? Because he's a little bit dour. But. Let's just take our hats off. Credit where credit's due. Andy Murray, this time, was it last year, I think, couldn't put his socks on. Right? His hip was that bad. He had a hip resurfacing surgery. They basically killed him off at the Australian Open last year. They did tributes like he'd just passed away. Andy, you were so great. You did it, Andy! You did it! You go, Andy! And you know what? He's back, isn't he? Fantastic. The comeback king. He managed to beat Stan Wawrinka, who is no mug, by the way, at 6-3. Sorry, he lost 3-6 the first set, then won the next two 6-4, 6-4.
Well, look, I thought Murray was mint, I've got to say. And the fact that he came from a set down as well. So, like, he showed his stamina as well, because he came from a set down, so... It's just the look that you give me, Patrick. Like, you kind of know it's coming, so why do you still get disappointed?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, come on, that was actually one of my better ones. Anyway, but he did come from a set down, of course, beat Stan Wawrinka. I think for me as well, for him now going into next year in particular, to have this win under his belt, he looks like he's fully fit. And I hold my hands up, because I said I'm literally holding my hands up now on radio because I said as soon as he had hip surgery, and speaking from experience, a goalkeeper that had shoulder surgery, a tennis player having hip surgery, that should be game over. So for him to actually get back even to this level is such a huge achievement.
Well, it is, especially given that he models his game on work rate, essentially. The fact is that he tries to outrun and outmaneuver his opponents and battle them, and that is always going to be a major issue for somebody. Clearly, he's come back from a hip resurfacing surgery. This was a sensational comeback, and he was right to be emotional at the end. And it wasn't just Andy Murray who was emotional as well. I think most people watching the Antwerp Open will have shed a tear.
Let's hear from Mr. Murray himself.
Last few years have been extremely difficult. Both actually me and Stan have had a lot of injury problems in the last couple of years. And yeah, amazing obviously to be back playing against him in a final like that. I mean I think it was a great match. Obviously third set was extremely close again, but yeah, amazing. I mean, yeah, I didn't expect to be in this position at all, so yeah, I'm very, very happy.
You want to correct him there on his...
It's Stan and I, isn't it? I don't want to be
a bit awkward
about it.
You heard a few groans in the crowd.
So he's let himself down there.
Oh,
it's a shame, really, because he worked so hard.
Great victory, so emotional, and then suddenly you kill that emotion with some incorrect grammar.
Yeah, shocker.
They are a knowledgeable crowd.
They really are in Antwerp. Don't take any messing.
There's no
but look, let's overlook his grammatical error there.
Yeah.
Andy Murray did very well, and he should be exceptionally proud.
He should indeed. So big well done to Andy Murray. We're going to be talking VAR. So we've got some big guests, by the way, Sal. We're speaking to Ben Thornley, of course, former Manchester United winger, about the game yesterday. We'll be speaking to Keith Hackett as well, former Premier League referee. Love having Keith on because although he is a former Premier League referee, he's not scared to say it how it is. You know, he's certainly not one that will come on and just back the referees.
And how it is, by the way, is that potentially that was the worst weekend for VAR since it was introduced. There were 5 dubious decisions there, not least, of course, the one at Liverpool that led up to the Manchester United goal. So, yeah, we'll get stuck into all that.
We're also speaking to George Shooter, former England hooker as well, so he'll be talking about the rugby later on. There was a lot going on, though, yesterday after the game, so I do want to talk a little about this. Some brilliant quotes from the likes of Neville, Souness, Keane. In fact, let's hear Neville versus Souness on Rashford being first-choice striker.
People were starting to question him in a big way and say, look, this is not the answer to Manchester United. You know, they need to go and sign another striker, and they might still need to, but at least he's showing what he
Gary,
is.
he isn't. He may be one day, but he's not the finished article right now.
No, but he wanted to.
He's not scored enough goals in the Premier League to say Man United can hang their hat on him being the man that's going to take them back to where they want.
No, I get that,
He
Graham.
needs help. This year he's been asked to be the main man. It's the hardest position to play on a football pitch. He's not ready to fill that role right now. He needs help. But like young boy James will need help.
But Graham, Manchester United have a choice to make. They either stick with him and believe in him in the long
not a
term.
case of sticking
No,
with
but you
anybody.
can look at Liverpool's front three today. Look at Firmino when he first
What do
come
you
to.
mean it's a case of sticking with them? Man United have only one choice to make: who they buy.
So Neville kind of gets a little bit of stick. We'll do a bit of role play now.
Okay.
I'll be Graham Souness, you be Gary Neville. So
Do I have to keep this outfit on?
I mean, I'd love it if this was just it, full stop. Because it cracks me up, by the way, when we're seeing these interviews and Gary Neville... Gary, just say what you want to say. But the problem is now, where he was the main man for so long, and all of a sudden you've got Roy Keane, Jose Mourinho, and Graham Souness.
They just treat him like dirt, don't
Just like
they?
a little child.
They just treat him. So it's basically like, right, so, look, personally, I thought that...
No, you're wrong. You're wrong, Gary. No. So he's not the first choice striker.
Rich, I thought that...
No, he's not the first choice. He hasn't got the finishing prowess in order to be
but
the...
Rich, I'm just
so,
making up...
basically, what I'm saying is he's probably better as a winger coming in from wide. And,
I think that...
No, so basically, this is what you got to listen to, Gary, because he is not a number 9. They need
Come on now, Graham, because...
No, but they need another number 9. So they need to bring someone in January.
It's exactly like
It's exactly that. And I feel sorry, because actually Gary Neville does make some good points. He does make some good points.
I feel so sorry for, like, you could just tell, right, Graham Souness probably drives, like, some kind of 4x4 Volvo. You know, doesn't have a sat-nav, right, because he doesn't like its tone, right? And his missus is next to him with a big map, and she's there like... Oh, Graham, I think it was left there. No, Graham, I think it was left there. No, I've been this way 1,000 times, Mary. No, come on, look, it wasn't. No.
I think he drives a monster truck and just drives over Neville's car on the way into the car park every time. Let's hear Roy Keane as well, because then you've got those two, which brilliant, world class. Jose Mourinho throwing in the odd Eric Cantona-esque comment, but then you've of course got Roy Keane, who just simplifies life. Let's hear him on Harry Kane.
Go and
you don't want
get
goal
Kane.
scorers.
Just go and get Kane from Spurs. Easy.
You'll be popular with Spurs fans.
Just go and get him.
Serious?
Yeah, what you're staring at? Yeah.
But that's what Man United. That's what Man United should be batting. Right. That's the kind of. That's what Man United should be batting. Go for the best. Always have done.
They're in disarray. Go and get him.
I love the way Souness teams up with Keane.
Oh, of course.
By the way,
yeah.
it's like you can smell blood, like sharks circling.
But again, Gary Neville, you'll be popular with Spurs fans. Like, whatever.
Shut up, Gary.
So you've got then, so they're like going for it again. But again, it's Roy Keane simplifying life. Go and get Harry Kane. Well, again, Roy, it's not quite as simple as that, mate. Like, there's quite a lot that goes into buying one of the best strikers in the world, arguably the best number 9 in the world. Yeah. You don't just go and buy them. But I think it's still that belief that United are that team.
Yeah. It just makes me laugh the way that Roy Keane just simplifies it and goes, well, you're staring at.
Yeah.
Nothing, Roy.
Nothing, Roy. You're right.
No one's looking at you, Roy. Don't worry.
Let's get Kane.
Sorry, Roy. We've got Kane.
But do you know what? It makes me wonder. They're talking a lot about. We're just going to replay this now throughout the show. The opportunity. Do you know what it makes me think?
Hang on a second. Sorry. Roy Keane's just let off a fart on the tube.
Yeah, what you're staring at.
Hey, how many more can we think of?
Roy Keane's just gone to get the post off his front lawn with an open dressing gown.
Yeah, what you're staring at.
Right, okay. I think we've had our fun. Okay, I've lost Patrick Christys for the time being. It does make me think, though, United looking for a director of football. Could Roy Keane be the answer?
Yeah, what? What do you reckon to go right? And now it's time for Roy Keane's landmark speeches as Manchester United's new director. Roy, take to the podium.
Yeah, what you're staring at.
Right, so do you know what?
Oh gosh.
Ah, Roy Keane.
It's just the man is dangerous.
Oh, he is. But this is why I think you bring him in as director of football at Man United. Imagine him on the phone to Daniel Levy trying to get Harry. We're buying Harry Kane. Roy, no, you're not. He's not. No, we're buying Roy. We're buying Harry Kane. Like he would be a brilliant director of football.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall for the negotiation between Daniel Levy, a man who made Dynamo Zagreb pay for the 4 replica Tottenham shirts with Modric on the back, and Roy Keane, who is essentially the Charles Bronson of football.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
Well, look, it was a fascinating day, a fascinating game. Let's hear from Mourinho on Klopp, because, of course, Klopp not particularly happy about Manchester United's tactics, said they were very defensive. Here's Mourinho on Klopp.
Because he never beat Man United at Old Trafford. I think he didn't like the menu. He likes meat and he got fish. So he was not happy.
There you go. Simple as that.
The thing is, though, it's a good way of putting it. By the way, there's a brilliant picture doing the rounds on Twitter that I urge everyone to go and have a look at. And it is Jose Mourinho sat down and he's got Roy Keane on one side of him, stood up, and Graham Souness on the other side, stood up. And it looks like, like a really old school cop drama where it's bad cop and they're just interviewing an out-and-out psychopath who's just laughing at everything they've got to say. They're both there going, oh, so turn the recording off. We're going to get sick. We're going to get old school. That's what it looks like. But Jose Mourinho's right. Jurgen Klopp has got off to a tremendous start. There's no denying the guy's quality. But you cannot expect to have everything your own way. And essentially, his big complaint is that Manchester United didn't just blindly continue, desperately tried to play Liverpool at their own game and then get spanked 4 or 5-0. Sorry, that's not the way the world works.
And it is a compliment at the end of the day. Look, they're doing as well as they are. Now, I've made the argument earlier that I think, although they've got the 25 points from the 9 games, which is an incredible return, I think that there's been 2 or 3 games where they have edged past them. I think yesterday, again, what they are showing, and this is the counter-argument, is that they are showing the kind of quality that a championship side would show, a championship winning side, would show, and actually you'd argue that they're only going to get better. I don't think they're anywhere near top gear for Liverpool. Where they were at certain parts of last season, I still think they're a way off. So if they can keep getting results while they're not necessarily hitting top gear, then it's dangerous for the rest of the league.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see how both of those teams, United and Liverpool, fare for the next couple of weeks, because United played. Look, I'll hold my hands up to this. I think United played very well, actually, and I think Solskjaer did set them up tactically, and did Jurgen Klopp there to an extent with a weakened team. Bearing in mind, Xavier was injured in the warm-up. Can United use this as a launch pad? Darren Fletcher certainly seemed to think so. He was interviewing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the game, and he was basically saying, look, this is the type of performance that could kickstart a season. It could be. We'll have to wait and see. Liverpool, can they deal with being in front? Are they a team that's always going to be better chasing a leader, or can they actually get a lead and maintain it? We'll have to wait and see.
That's the thing. That is the thing. 8:15.
Yeah, what you're staring at.
Putin is a great singer. I love him in that musical, Putin on the Ritz.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it. Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
I'm Leslie from North Essex. I couldn't believe that after 5 minutes I'd saved over £900 on my energy bills. When my car insurance was then due for renewal, I went back to a spokesman said and reduced my premium by over £500. I thought that my home insurance was expensive. When I shopped around on a spokesman said, I saved a staggering £1,100. I've saved £2,500. I cannot believe it was that easy.
A spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Got a couple of very special guests in the next hour or so. We're going to be speaking to Keith Hackett, former Premier League referee, also George Shooter, former England hooker. Delighted to say now we've got an equally special guest, Ben Thornley, former Manchester United winger, because of course it was a huge game yesterday. United getting a point against Liverpool. Lots to discuss. Morning, Ben.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, very well, very well. This was an improvement for Manchester United.
It certainly was. I think, before the international break, any Manchester United fan could have done without us coming back to face Liverpool. But I thought that the reaction that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got and needed from his players was absolutely outstanding yesterday.
Just talk me through Solskjaer's tactics, because certainly Darren Fletcher after the game was essentially announcing this as the second coming. What did you make of it?
I thought it was strange for him to flip to a back three, but it must have been something that he'd been working on. Obviously, we lost Axel Tuanzebe, who I thought was our sort of standout performer in our last game before the break. But I thought Marcus Rojo came in and was an able deputy. I thought they made it very, very difficult for Liverpool. I thought United looked solid, especially in the first half. And I just think that if he could have been a little bit more clinical, then Liverpool, on the day that they were having, were there for the taking. They obviously missed Salah in a forward role. I don't think Origi offers anywhere near as much as Salah can. And like I said, if United could have been that little bit more clinical at 1-0, I felt as though with the second goal we could have won it. But we always needed that second goal, and that's something that since the start of the season has been so elusive.
Yeah, keen to get your thoughts on Rashford. I mean, he's coming for a bit of criticism, certainly since the start of the season, not really taken to that number 9 position so far. However, it was an improvement from him yesterday as well.
It was. It wasn't just his overall contribution, but I thought his movement, I thought he got through a hell of a lot of work. I mean, obviously, he got into the position that we want to see him in if he's going to be in centre forward, which is, to come in between the two centre halves. And it was a good ball by Daniel James to get him in there. Having said that, if I'm putting my non-Man United hat on, it should have been ruled out. It was an obvious free kick leading up to the goal, as was the handball for Sadio Mane's, but they got theirs ruled out and we didn't. But sometimes that happens. I seem to remember Sadio Mane having a penalty against Leicester that never was either. So these things do even themselves up. But it was a really good finish by Marcus, and it had that chance that he made for himself when he skipped inside Matip in the second half, and the goal opened up. I thought this was it for 2-0, and unfortunately he dragged his shot wide. But certainly a big improvement, not just from Marcus, but I thought from the team in general, they look much more solid. But it's just this scoring goals that they need to get over, and hopefully with Anthony Martial coming back into the team and Mason Greenwood being given a few more opportunities, that might improve. But certainly a huge improvement against a very, very good side, and we've stopped them from the 100% record, so at least we can take another positive out of it.
Yeah, we've not quite knocked them off the perch, but we just rattled it a little bit, I suppose.
Yes.
Jurgen Klopp coming out after the game and just a little bit of sour grapes, do you reckon, saying that United are defending and all this. What's your take on what Jurgen Klopp had to say?
Yeah, I thought that I thought he was a little bit disparaging, and I seem to remember him mentioning that ever since he's been at Liverpool, that is the way that Manchester United have played. I actually thought that United, did their fair share of attacking, and I don't understand why he wants to criticise Man United, because as much as his team are sitting top of the league, we finished the game yesterday, and I don't recall either Alisson or David De Gea having saves to make on a regular basis, if at all. So their attacking intent wasn't hitting the real sort of silver streak either. So I don't understand why he wants to criticise Man United. I didn't think his team played very well yesterday, and with the fact that Liverpool have got away with a couple. I've already mentioned the penalty. Down at Southampton, they should have had points taken off them. They conceded 3 at home in Europe. I know that they're doing really well at the top of the league, but there is just a little bit of an air of vulnerability about them. And I thought yesterday they looked like a very average side, Liverpool, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let's hear from Solskjaer. He says United deserve more than 1 point.
I'm disappointed on behalf of the players, because I thought the effort they put in, and the fans, of course, because they deserved more than the 1 point, I felt. And when it's towards the end of the game, it feels worse as well. Yeah, they put us under pressure towards the end, but I didn't feel that they created too many chances, and we soaked the pressure up really well. One lack of concentration, and it's a goal, and that's the level we're at.
It certainly feels like Solskjaer's got a little bit of an edge to him now, and I'm feeling it more and more in the interviews that he's given. Am I right in thinking something that's working in his favour? The fact that the signings he's brought in, of course, Harry Maguire, Daniel James, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and certainly Daniel James and Aaron Wan-Bissaka yesterday both played very well, I thought. The fact that his new signings have arguably been 3 of the better players will work in his favour long term?
I'm sure it will. Yeah, he's identified those as players that he wants to bring in. I know that we were linked with Harry Maguire under the reign of Jose Mourinho. But we, for whatever reason, he didn't come. But we finally got our man, and I think he made quite a lot of headed clearances yesterday as well. But I still think that we are yet to see the best of Harry Maguire in a Manchester United shirt.
Yeah.
But certainly the other two, I thought Aaron Wan-Bissaka coming back into the side gave us that thrust and that that cutting edge with the defensive tackling especially. And you need that against Liverpool, because they rely as much on the front three as they do with the 2 fullbacks getting forward, and that eventually Trent Alexander-Arnold had a poor game yesterday, but they were always looking to work the ball out to Robertson on the far side, and eventually they broke us down the one time they needed to, and Adam Lallana has a simple tap in.
Yeah, I thought after the game as well, they had Danny Murphy there, they had Darren Fletcher just doing an interview for Match of the Day 2 with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and they had him out on the pitch, and it went on for quite a while. It was quite an extensive interview. It was good value, actually. It was good watching, and for a while I thought, it's a little bit cringy, this, actually, because Solskjaer was going into quite a lot of detail about how he set them up, and I thought, you can't really imagine Sir Alex doing that, and then I thought, actually, no, hang on a minute. Let him have his moment, because it has been such a rocky road for him, and it has been such a tough road for him, and he's always kind of maintained, he's been true to his guns, hasn't he? And I wonder whether actually the confidence that result might give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is something that actually could be a big positive for Manchester United.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're absolutely right, because with the the way that the results have obviously gone since the start of the season. People had started to question his tactics, and I remember when he first came into not actually the job itself, but when he took his caretaker role last sort of January, February, he went to Spurs, he went to Arsenal, he went to Chelsea, and he got his tactics absolutely spot on, and now all of a sudden people are starting to question him. And I think that he's got every right to stand up for himself and say, listen, this is what I'm trying to achieve. These are the players that I've got, and this is how I'm going to do it. And there's no better way for him to come out and justify himself than the team that is, flying high at the top of the league, that hadn't lost a league game all season. And I hope that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer remains in this job for a long time, because I think yesterday everybody got a glimpse of what he is trying to build here. The 3 players that he's brought in, undoubtedly, given the time, the players that he will add to that squad as well. And do you know what? As much as at the moment we are sort of poles apart, if you like, in where we are in the division, I don't think Manchester United are too many players away from closing that gap. I really don't.
That was not a Manchester United team that has given up on their manager. No, that's a fact. You don't go and play like that against Liverpool if you throw in the towel in, because the easiest thing for them to do would be, to be honest with you, do a little bit what they did under Jose in his last game, where it looks like you're not putting the yards in and you get your manager sacked. And that was not a performance for me that showed that. And look, in your opinion, how likely is it, do you reckon, that this could kickstart a bit of positivity at United, maybe a run of results?
It's got to. It really does have to, because albeit we can go on about the performance yesterday and the level had increased by a country mile. It's still, the fact of the matter is that it was another 2 points dropped. And I know that sounds really cynical, but we can't afford now to keep dropping points. I think the actual performance itself, rather than result, was tremendous. And I think that's got to be a springboard now, because we've got 4 away games on the bounce. So, logistically, it's going to be difficult as well, because, we've got to go to Belgrade. And then Norwich, Chelsea and Bournemouth all in a row in the space of 6 days. So it's going to be difficult. But I think that result yesterday, not the result, the performance yesterday, and the way that the fans got behind Manchester United, I think that everybody connected to Manchester United got behind their manager, and I think it's a wonderful springboard for us to go and close the gap on the teams above us come the next international break in November.
Fantastic. Ben, thank you very much for joining us. Ben Thornley there, former Manchester United winger. That was quite a passionate speech there at the end.
Good stuff. Follow him into battle.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Go over the top with Ben Thornley.
Not wrong. Yeah, well, look, I think he makes some good points. I think from a United perspective, I think what you said there at the end is key, though, right? It's all good and well. The performance, this is an improved performance. And actually, ironically, I suppose you look at arguably their 2 best performances have been home to Chelsea, home to Liverpool. It's now the fact they've got Norwich next in the league. That's the kind of game where, all good and well, go and get a point against Liverpool. Now you've got to go and beat Norwich.
I think we forget, don't we? We're 9 games in.
Yeah.
Right, and the idea, this is why I feel a little bit silly, actually, for doing this, which is that I lost sight of that, really. And I think that it's all very well and good. Solskjaer got to a great start, poor end to last season, but really his job started in the summer, properly, I think. And 8, 9 games in. If we're 9 games in and United have started to see the benefits of Solskjaer's tenure and that this is maintained, then that's not a bad effort to almost complete a relatively extensive overhaul of a football club and get them playing in 9 games. It's decent.
Yes, indeed. We're going to be speaking to Keith Hackett shortly, former Premier League referee. Of course, a lot of VAR controversy. Do you know what? That's going to come out in a minute. Controversy.
Hang on, we'll just go to VAR. Wait a second.
There we go. Did I get it right?
A second. Yes, go!
Fantastic.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Fantastic. We'll also be talking to George Shooter as well, former England hooker. As always, you can get in touch. Let us know your thoughts. 0208 70 20 558 on the WhatsApp or at Love Sport Radio on the socials. Or, of course, we're on YouTube. I see we've had messages on YouTube. Clive has been in touch. Yeah, he's been in touch. He just said good morning. That was it. Very
morning,
simple.
Clive.
We've had a lot of other messages as well. We do appreciate that. Do keep them coming. It's always great to hear from you. We'll read out as many as we can. It's 8:30.
Love Sport. Are you being fobbed off by a company? Are they letting you down? And are your complaints falling on deaf ears? We can help you out. Come to a spokesmansaid.com and we will give you a voice and a platform to raise your complaints. As recommended in the Daily Telegraph, a spokesman said.com. Fighting for you, saving you money. Travelling abroad can be stressful, and you don't need the added worry of how you'll afford to pay if something goes wrong. Go to price comparison site a spokesman said.com and find the best deal on your travel insurance to avoid holiday hell.
thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Are you paying way too much for your energy bills? A spokesman said could help you save big money. With electricity costs continuing to rise, you could save hundreds of pounds by shopping around. Just go to a spokesmansaid.com and look for the very best value energy deals on the market. Don't waste your hard-earned cash. You could be on a much cheaper deal. Go to a spokesmansaid.com.
Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. We're online, digital radio and your Alexa smart speaker with myself, Richard Lee, Patrick Christie, here with you until 10. Don't forget, we're going to be speaking to the Haringey Borough manager later in the show on the back of more alleged racism over the weekend. Of course, Haringey Borough taking their team off about 60 minutes into their game against Yeovil. Delighted to say now we've got a very special guest and someone I'm really excited to speak to, certainly after what's happened this weekend. We do have Keith Hackett, former Premier League referee, on the line. Morning, Keith.
Good morning.
Good morning. Right, I don't know where to start because there were so many things this weekend. I might just throw this to you and just let you talk. That might be the easiest way that we start this off.
Well, I thought it was an absolute disaster for VAR. And the boss of the PGMOL really needs to sit down with his referees, the VARs, and probably include managers and some player representatives to get this whole mess put right. We're making an absolute pig's ear of how to use and operate VAR. There was sufficient evidence to highlight the fact that everywhere else around the world where technology is used under the VAR criteria, the pitch side monitor is used. I've been saying for months now that this is part of the equipment and part of the process. The referee, in law, is the sole decision maker, and he listens to advice from his colleagues and accepts it or rejects it. But ultimately, he is responsible, or she in the case of other leagues. Now, in simple terms, by not looking at the VAR, the referee has been put in the mire. Yeah. If we look at the Spurs-Watford game, right, Dele Alli's goal was allowed to stand, even though it had accidentally struck the arm, the upper arm, of Dele Alli. The new law, which is an ass in itself, states that where an accidental handball takes place by a forward and he gains an advantage, that goal is ruled out. So they've got that one wrong. On a review. Yeah. Then we've got a penalty kick. First of all, I'm questioning why isn't the penalty awarded by the match referee? Because it's such an obvious foul. They go to VAR, and the VAR and the referee decide, or the man in the room at Stockley Park decides it's not a foul. So no penalty kick to Watford. I thought the Watford manager in his interviews that I've seen was quite gracious, really, shaking his head in disbelief because these were terrible decisions against Watford. So that's a team that suffered.
Yeah.
In the Leicester-Burnley game, we had a situation where Chris Woods runs through, Johnny Evans is in front of him. There's no doubt that the legs came into contact, but it was accidental. It wasn't a foul. And therefore, Burnley, incorrectly, on VAR, had a goal ruled out. So that's two to begin with. We go to Palace Man City, and De Bruyne is hauled down. He's not just tripped, he's grabbed, he's pulled to the ground, and you've got to be looking at the referee and thinking, well, why is he not in the first case given a penalty kick? Is he shy from giving one? Because that is an offence. So then it's compounded because to go to VAR, VAR in itself shows the clear offence. The defender's lost, if you like, the challenge, so he's grabbed him. No penalty kick. Totally bemusing. And we go on. You know, we go to yesterday's game, Manchester United. First of all, I talk about safe refereeing. In a big game like Manchester United-Liverpool, right, you start off the game by giving the small fouls. You just enhance your control, enhance your authority, show that you're in charge. You're not suppressing the game. So there's a foul from behind on a Liverpool player. Don't anybody tell me that it's not a foul. Play then is allowed to continue, and a goal is scored. Fine. Everybody's celebrating. We know now that the celebration's going to come to an end because the referee, who's been iffy about it, has now got his colleague to help him because his colleague can say to him, there's a foul, bring it back, award the free kick. No foul is given. And I cannot believe that the PGMOL are operating the VAR system and putting top-class referees, because that's who they are. I'll criticise them at times, but they are being put in the mire by a process where the bar has been raised too high, and so the VAR is not intervening. And when they come to a decision, nobody wants to make it because, you know, if it's Michael Oliver, who's our top referee, acting as VAR for another colleague, he doesn't want to undermine his colleague. He wants to support his colleague.
Yeah,
what we've got and what they need is a dose of reality because at the moment, the English Premier League referees' decline is like falling off the edge of a cliff. And the game that we love and the league, which is the best league in the world, demands world-class referees.
It does. Well,
We've got them,
let's hear from
but they've not been able to do their job.
I'll tell you what, Keith, let's hear from Jurgen Klopp on VAR.
I'm not sure if he can admit that, but Mr. Atkinson you saw it in the first moment, so that he ran and he saw that there could be a goal. Then they scored a goal. It was immediately showed VAR. So my coaches were already on their toes, and I said, come on, come down, VAR's checking. And I was 100% sure VAR will overrule it. But then now we see we have the problem.
So this, for me, Keith, is exactly what you've just said. I'm seeing this more and more, which actually the referee at the time probably thinks, oh, do you know, it probably is a foul, but I've got the backup. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if I make the error because someone else is going to save me. And there was actually some audio we've got as well of Sean Dyche. I won't play that, but essentially, in fact, I'll tell you what, we will play that because it makes a very similar point.
The big talking point is obviously VAR, and I'm a big fan of it, as everyone knows. I think it's right in the game. But you've got to be disappointed with the outcome of that. I've seen it back 37 times. The referee, I'm disappointed in the referee because he made it clear to my coaches if he should need to come and look at the screen, he will do, and to tolerate that and be tolerant of it, which he didn't look at the screen, which I find amazing.
So the point is exactly what you make, Keith, where it's a case of actually they're not making the decision because they know they've got the backup, but then also effectively going from one human error to then another human error, where I could... This is a question I want to ask you, actually, because they're sat there in Stockley Park, and I can imagine there's pressure because it's suddenly, right, you've got to make a decision. You've got to do it quick because we don't want to let 50,000 people in a stadium sat there waiting for too long. And as you say, they don't want to then undermine the referee who's already made the wrong call, so we'll often see it twice. I mean, the Jan Vertonghen one for me was just... It was incredible. You could see from Delafeo's reaction that he was so adamant it was a penalty. How they missed it in real time is beyond me. How they then miss it at Stockley Park. You've gone from one human error to more human error, and it's making a bit of a mockery of VAR.
Well, I agree. I mean, the first line is that you expect top-class professional referees to actually get the majority of decisions right. You expect them to say, look, I've got backup, but don't delay or deny or stop making a decision because you think there's a guy in a room somewhere else, 100 miles away. He's going to pull you out the mire. That's not what VAR is for. VAR is to ensure that ultimately, when there is a shortfall in that decision, it is corrected. I agree. So I'm contradicting myself there. But in reality, there's a lack of trust here. There's a lack of cooperation, and it's wrong. At the moment, I'm like Sean Dyche. If you go back to what I've said on this programme in the past, I'm the biggest supporter of VAR. I said, why hasn't the Premier League brought it in? He's got to bring it in. And why is the PGMOL operating it differently from other countries around the world?
Yeah, Keith, when it goes to Stockley Park, right, the person who looks at that and checks that and ultimately decides, have they got any football knowledge at all? Who are they?
Well, first of all, they're top-class referees.
The people at Stockley Park definitely guaranteed every single time when they throw that over to Stockley Park, the person looking at that will be a top-class referee.
Will be a referee either at Championship level or Premier League level. So you've got... What happens over a weekend is, you might get Anthony Taylor refereeing one game and the following day is VAR. Or this weekend, you've got Michael Oliver, VAR on 2 occasions.
Because I thought that was the case. I thought it was what it was. But having looked at the 5 decisions that you've just outlined again from this weekend, I was really confused as to whether or not it was actually top flight referees that are looking at this.
Well, I just think that at the moment common sense has been thrown out the window. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you can see a foul has taken place, and okay, the referee's not seen it, and that is the case at times. We've got world-class assistant referees. Believe me, our assistant referees are the best in the world. They've officiated at World Cup finals. Darren Cann, Mike Malarkey, all those sort of people are absolutely world-class. And they're not being allowed to do the job because on that penalty, a foul on involving De Bruyne, where they should have had a penalty kick, right? The assistants should have seen that. 2 years ago, a year ago, the assistant would have flagged. So for me, the system's not working, and it's got to change. I know that the game worries about the delay and how that impacts on the tactics and the flow of the game. But if we're going to use VAR, the ultimate responsibility is to get the decisions right. And believe me, Mike Riley last year came out and said, we need VAR, we're introducing it because at the moment we're 82% accurate on the big calls. Those big calls are the VAR calls. So we think, great, introduce VAR, we're going to get into the mid-90s, which is where we should be sitting. And what do we get? I think we're still in the low 80s. I don't think we've seen the improvement out of VAR and the cost implications that is about because it's not being used properly. The criteria is wrong, and I think there's doubt. When there's a doubt in a referee's mind, just like a player, you're going to save a ball and you have a doubt, you'll lose fractions of a second. As a result, you don't get the ball. And the same in refereeing. If you have doubt or you have this laid-back attitude, the VAR is going to pull me out of it, I'm going to stop making the big calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, as always, really appreciate your honesty.
Pleasure.
Great stuff. Keith Hackett, their former Premier League referee. Interestingly, this is obviously from a Watford perspective, but they had the issue with Newcastle as well earlier in the season, which some claim may well have cost Javi Gracia his job, his last game in charge, where Watford, the Newcastle goal shouldn't have stood, did. And you actually look, two big decisions, well, technically three now, including this top, but two results where they've cost them 4 points. Again, that's 4 points that puts them outside of the relegation zone, and it's a completely different landscape. And this is where the decisions are meant to be spot on. And if anything, if you're a Watford fan right now, you're feeling hard done by.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Before VAR, you would look at a decision and you just think, well, look, okay, the ref's got it wrong and they've missed it. But when you see it replayed to you over and over again, it's something as basic as it hits a player on the arm or a player just gets hacked down in the box. Something as simple as that. And so then you go to VAR. It shouldn't be a lottery. It shouldn't be a guessing game. You should be able to go, well, let's hit him on the arm. It's a penalty or it's a disallowed goal or whatever, and it's still a lottery.
Very true. What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558, or feel free to reach out on YouTube. We're going to be talking rugby next.
England is the wettest country around, but what do you expect if the Queen's going to reign for so long?
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Don't get caught out in the great energy price hike as large firms look to charge you more. If you want to save money on your energy bills, it's not too late to see what's on the market. With rising gas and electricity bills, don't get caught out wasting your money on expensive tariffs. A Spokesman Said will show you the very best value deals available. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could be using your savings to put towards a well-earned holiday.
With aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. Of course, it was a massive weekend in the rugby, and delighted to say we're joined by George Shooter, former England hooker, to go through it with us. Morning, George.
Morning, guys. You all right?
Morning, yeah, good, thanks. Good. And I'm sure you're pretty good too after the weekend. Very good performance against Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a really good weekend of quarterfinals. All 4 games were really enjoyable to watch. And I think probably the 4 best teams end up in the semi-finals now. So, yeah, it's been a good weekend for sport.
Yeah, so I mean, look, Eddie Jones essentially ended Michael Cheika's career as well, certainly as an Australian coach, which I think is absolutely lovely, don't you?
It's not the worst news to hear on a Monday morning, is it?
But yeah, just talk to us about the performances. Who stood out for you? There was a lot made about the omission of Ford clearly going into the game. Look, in the end, we won by 40 points to 16, so did all right.
Yeah, I mean, Owen Farrell played pretty well, to be fair. I don't think George Ford would have done any differently. I think he's had a great tournament. He's been playing really well for England recently, but probably the right decision to start with Farrell. He kicked all his goals. His goal kicking was fantastic. But, I mean, I think the back row really was where it's won, particularly the 2 flankers, Underhill and Curry. I thought they were outstanding in the breakdown against Hooper and Pocock, who are pretty good themselves. And actually, I think that was where the game was won and lost, really. Johnny May's 2 tries early on sort of set the foundation, but really Australia never got a foothold in the game because the 2 flankers were just chopping everyone down. They were causing turnovers, they were slowing the ball down. I thought Underhill in particular went a bit under the radar. He was It's so effective. He's so physical. I think that's where the game was won and lost, to be honest.
Indeed. Let's hear from Eddie Jones.
Look, it's tough when you lose a game, and particularly at this level of the World Cup. At this moment, not a lot of sympathy, no, because I'm enjoying the win, and I think I'm allowed to enjoy the win. Maybe later in the week I might, so ask me that later in the week.
Indeed, and everyone seems to be on side with Eddie Jones once more. Of course, the semi-final, arguably, some saying should be the final, given the standard of the two teams. How do you see that one playing out? Of course, New Zealand comfortable against Ireland. This will be the toughest test so far for England. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I really can't see England winning. I'd love to be proved wrong, and anything could happen, I suppose. But New Zealand are a really good team at the moment. And I thought at the weekend, Ireland are pretty good as well, and New Zealand made them look very ordinary. I think maybe if England could get a foothold up front, put New Zealand under pressure, be very, very physical at the breakdown again, then they could win the game. But I just think, I tipped New Zealand before the World Cup to win it a little bit dull and boring because they're the favourites. But I still think they're the favourites, to be honest. And it's a great matchup. It's going to be a fantastic test match. But I really struggle to see where England can win it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I just want a quick word, actually, on Japan. They lost 26-3 to South Africa. It's no disgrace, obviously, South Africa being one of the best teams in the world, and Japan kind of finding their way still a little bit in elite level of rugby. But just talk to me a little bit about this Japan side and how far you think that they could go in the future.
Well, there's a real case for them to be involved in one of the major tournaments in the international calendar. And the obvious one would be the Rugby Championship in the Southern Hemisphere. There shouldn't really be a surprise. What they did against South Africa 4 years ago may have been a little bit out of left field. But I think when you look at the team on paper, actually what they've done this World Cup shouldn't be a surprise. They've got some really good players from the Southern Hemisphere, Kiwis and Aussies and South Africans. And actually, the way they play rugby, they play rugby like they look like they enjoy it. There's not many teams in international rugby that look like they enjoy playing rugby. It's all very sort of disciplined and serious. Whereas these guys, they're offloading, they're playing like they want to have fun. And actually, that's a great way. That's a great way to be coached. I think if you're coaching a team and you're trying to get people to enjoy, that's ideal. So I think they probably need to kick on. They need to play more international rugby. They need to play against the tier one nations more often. I don't know where that fits in the calendar. That's the tricky part. Trying to get them involved in international rugby more often is the only way they're going to develop, really. And the potential is huge because the Japanese love sport. They love all their sport. They're not necessarily a rugby nation, but they do love their sport. So actually, if they get a foothold in there, rugby gets a foothold in Japan, the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Kyle Sinclair. He was born in a London council estate in Tooting. He was raised by a proud single mother who works used to work anyway, in a police call centre. She was roaring on the rampaging rhino, as he's come to be known. He's got his emotions in check a little bit, I think, hasn't he? And he seems to have matured a lot. Certainly was his most mature display in an England shirt, for me anyway, at the weekend. How far has he come, and what do you know about Kyle in a personal sense, really? Do you know anything about him particularly?
Actually, I don't really know him that well personally. I grew up in Croydon, so we didn't go up too far apart. I'm a little bit older than him, admittedly. But it is a great story, and he's come a long way in a fairly short period of time. He's been playing at Quins and has sort of been catching the eye for a few years. People always talk about his discipline. He's likely, he's got a bit of a short temper, but also some of his technical discipline, if you like, scrummaging, binds and the technique and that sort of stuff has perhaps held him back to a degree. But he went on the Lions tour a couple of years ago to New Zealand, played very well there, matched up well against the best team in the world. And actually, like you say, I think Saturday was probably his best display for England in terms of he didn't give away a lot of penalties. He was very disciplined. He didn't respond to the winding up the Aussies were trying to get on him, and he scored a cracking try for a pop as well. So if he can keep this up, keep that consistency up, if he can keep his discipline, keep his head, work on his technique in the scrum, again, you're looking at a player who could be the best tight prop in the world for the next 10 years. Indeed.
And lastly, who meets in the final and who wins?
I'm going to stick with my previous predictions of New Zealand-South Africa final. I think South Africa look like a good team. the Welsh, again, that'll be another cracking game. But I think the South Africans have got just a bit too much up front and probably a bit too much out wide as well in terms of attacking threat. And I think New Zealand are going to win the final, unfortunately.
I hope you're wrong, but George, do appreciate your thoughts.
Me too.
Yeah, top man. George Shooter there, former England hooker, giving his thoughts on England at the weekend. In fact, the World Cup on the whole, which has been fantastic.
Well, it has been, and this is why Japan, I think, are well poised to go and kick on and become a real tour de force in World Rugby. Because if you look at the level of organisation and engagement that has gone on in this World Cup in Japan, then actually, if rugby fever grips Japan, they're very likely to obsess about it if they're not already, and they're very likely to organise it very well at a grassroots level and going forward. And they're a relatively wealthy country as well, so certainly wealthy in the likes of Georgia and those nations. And you would have thought that Japan have got a good chance of kicking on. And also, like, you just love to see it, don't you? Like, there's something special about when Japan play rugby. It is magnificent.
There is indeed. Just before we go to the news, just want to touch on Sir Andy Murray, of course.
Sir Andy.
Winning, his first tournament, or his first singles tournament, of course, since the injury. Just a quick word on him, because it's phenomenal, really, given that you've got hip surgery, major hip surgery for a tennis player. Hips ordinarily end tennis players. For him to come back to win, we could hear just how emotional he was in his interview that he gave, and rightly so.
Oh, look, exactly. Andy Murray's absolute superstar. Well done. To come back and win an ACP Tour event in Antwerp there after a year ago, wasn't able to put his socks on because he couldn't really bend down. I mean, day-to-day life was an absolute struggle for him, and he obviously thought his career was pretty much over. Just an absolute superstar. Well done.
Yeah, you have the same issue, don't you? Bending down, socks on, but for different reasons.
Yeah. That's it. I just got more rolls than Greg's.
You're working on it, though. And in fairness, look, you've made improvements. Definitely
just
steps
wearing
forward.
black, mate. That's what's happening.
Oh, is that what it is?
I've masked it and I'm breathing in.
It's an illusion. It's all an illusion.
Yep.
3 minutes to 9.
This is Love Sport.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Alright, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another hour or so. Then, of course, the brilliant Martin Bell is up after us, and we will, of course, be back then tomorrow at 6:30, and we're with you all week. We have got a big hour coming up. We're going to be speaking to Jamie Brown, Daily Hotspur. Of course, Spurs, they did halt their run of defeats. They got a draw. Watford wasn't a particularly convincing performance. VAR was very much on their side, so it's going to be interesting to get Jamie's thoughts on that. And, of course, Pochettino as well, and the fact they've got the Champions League game coming up. We're also going to be speaking to Hugh Turberville, managing editor for the Cricketer magazine. The draft was made yesterday for the 100. For those that saw it, very entertaining. Some interesting picks. We'll be going through that with Hugh. We're also going to be speaking to the Haringey Borough manager. Now, there have been 2 arrests with this. Of course, those that didn't see it, Haringey Borough walked off the field. Their game against Yeovil, they're 1-0 down, 60 minutes in, and both teams walked off the field. So it'll be interesting to get his thoughts on that. There were also alleged incidents in the game between Rangers and Hearts, also Luton and Bristol City as well. We'll also be talking more, of of course, about Manchester United Liverpool. The big game yesterday ended in a draw. It was certainly an interesting game. As always, we are on WhatsApp 0208 70 25 58. You can call us on that number as well. You can also get in touch via the socials at Love Sport Radio, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. We're online, digital radio and your Alexa smart speaker. We're also on YouTube these days as well. Simply go on YouTube and type in Love Sport Breakfast. The time is 9 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 9, there's doubt as to whether there'll be another vote on Boris Johnson's Brexit deal later. It's thought the House of Commons Speaker might block it because a similar vote was brought on Saturday. Conservative MP Andrew Bridgen says it's time to get Brexit done.
There's still a lot wrong with the withdrawal agreement that I and many colleagues don't like, but we recognise that we need to support the Prime Minister and get Brexit across the line. I don't think my constituents can take much more of this, and I don't think our democracy can take much more of this.
Meanwhile, judges will decide later whether Boris Johnson's in contempt of court over his Brexit delay letters. The Court of Session will have to decide whether he obeyed the law when he sent one asking the EU for an extension and another saying he didn't want one. The Duke of Sussex has addressed speculation about a rift between him and his brother, Prince William. Harry says they're on different paths, but insists they will always be there for each other. Royal biographer Angela Levin says it was upsetting to see him like that.
It was the saddest thing I've seen for a very long time. Here's a young man who finally found what he wanted. You know, been aching to get married, aching to have a child, aching to do what he felt was right for the country, and it's all gone pear-shaped.
Two men from Somerset have been arrested after allegedly racially abusing Haringey Borough's goalkeeper in their FA Cup tie with Yeovil. Players walked off the pitch, meaning the match was abandoned. Abortion and same-sex marriage will be legalised in Northern Ireland at midnight tonight. Assembly members will sit for the first time in 2.5 years, but are powerless to stop the laws coming into force. And Andy Murray says it means a lot to win his first singles tennis title since having career-saving hip surgery. He beat Stan Wawrinka in 3 sets in the final of the European Open. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
This is Love Sport.
You're 169 in the queue.
I proposed on the 169. She got offered the next stop.
You're my 169th greatest lover.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487.50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, myself, Richard Lee, and Patrick Christys. Let's touch on the headlines this morning. VAR dominates as the Premier League returns. In fact, we did just have a fantastic interview with Keith Hackett. If you missed it, feel free to log on to our website and listen back to that. Of course, controversy in so many of the games this weekend, including the Man United-Liverpool game and Leicester-Burnley, and of course, Tottenham-Watford too. England beat Australia on Saturday. Wales win as well against France. We're all set for the semi-finals in the rugby. There was a racist incident in the FA Cup qualifier between Haringey Borough and Yeovil Town. We're going to be speaking to the Haringey Borough manager very shortly in regards to that. Also, the draft for the 100 took place. Again, we'll be speaking to Hugh Turberville, managing editor of the Cricketer magazine, who is in attendance. We'll be speaking to him in about 15 minutes' time. And Andy Murray was successful for the first time in singles since his comeback from major hip surgery. Now, we're going to continue with a bit of Premier League. We're going to talk about Tottenham. They did manage to avoid defeat against Tottenham, but it was against Watford, but it was certainly far from convincing. Delighted to say we've got Jamie Brown from Daily Hotspur on the line. Morning, Jamie.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Keen to get your thoughts on this game at the weekend. So Spurs did halt their run of defeats, or certainly a couple of heavy defeats that they had. It was fair to say not the most convincing display. The equaliser coming towards the end, a bit controversial. VAR, a big talking point as well. What were your thoughts on the game?
No, look, to be honest, I think we were very fortunate to come away with a point in the end. It was a really disappointing display from Spurs. It was kind of, the players really only started fighting until the 5th minute. The last 5 minutes in which we scored. So, I mean, I was really disappointed with kind of the lack of effort that the players showed at many times. It was a very disappointing display. But I think also some of the blame has to be with the manager. I think that there were some decisions that I have to question, like Tanguy Ndombele came on, he changed the game, and maybe it was a bit too late that he brought him on. He took Lucas Moura off, who was looking quite effective. So, I was questioning some of the manager's decisions as well. But overall, I think that the lack of effort was something that really struck me and was very disappointing.
Well, let's just have a look at some of the stats. I love a stat. So Spurs had 12 shots to Watford 7, 70% possession, about more than 300 more passes with an 86% pass completion rate. This should have been an evisceration. So the problem lies, with penetration, do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's been an issue for Spurs. I know that the Harry Kane, one thing that he stopped doing is just taking shots, and that's where he's been so effective, is by getting off such a high number of shots, and that's certainly been an issue for Spurs this season, as you highlighted. So, it was Heung-min Son was a guy that obviously maybe should have started and came on as well. He kind of increased that a bit. But yeah, I mean, the attack was just, there was really nothing there. And unfortunately, I have to admit that Harry Kane's been a bit of an issue for Spurs this year. He's just not quite been himself, especially mainly for Spurs. He's been very disappointing. And he's someone I'd maybe look to maybe bring out the side for a bit. I mean, he has kind of been a bit of a passenger for Spurs. And I know Spurs fans will get very disappointed and angry at me maybe if I was to say this, but I would take Harry Kane up the side for a bit. I totally acknowledge he is our best player, but at the moment he's kind of been a bit of a passenger. I think that when the Spurs were most effective this year, it was without Harry Kane, and it was when we had Lucas Moura and Heung-min Son up front. And that's something that maybe I'd look to go back to.
Well, there's something I wanted to ask you, and it's interesting you say that, because I look at this Spurs team, and I look at the team this time last year, when, Christmas last year, a couple of points off City, I think it was, if I remember rightly, and really much in the hunt for the Premier League title. And of course, since then, things have changed completely, yet the team hasn't necessarily changed. So is it as simple as a Harry Kane not performing and him being so good this time last year, for instance, or is it a bit deeper than that? Is it the culture within the club?
No, I think that the main issue is when we were flying at our best last year, we did have our main front four of Heung-min Son, Dele Alli, Eriksen, and Harry Kane. Now, really, only one of them is performing at the moment. That's Heung-min Son. So that's certainly been an issue in attack. But defensively, I think that's where it has been our biggest issues. I mean, if you look at that back four, we start with a back five, but Davinson Sanchez came on for half time. The back four in the second half, all four of them have said they wanted to leave at some stage. Maybe not Jan Vertonghen, but of course he had that issue at the start of the year. So we had a back four of four players who have all wanted to leave over the summer. So it just shows you that there's a lot of confusion at the moment, and what is our best team, and to have four players there that really have all wanted to leave is very disappointing.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've had 17.4 million people who wanted to leave as well, and we're not being allowed to. But anyway, I digress. Carry on.
Leg 2 fixtures, of course, Liverpool away, Everton away, which are certainly two fixtures in the league anyway. So tough games. And obviously with Everton turning things around at the weekend, Liverpool, well, we know what they're capable of. At what point does this really turn for Spurs? Or is this going to be a concerning season?
I think it's good. For me, at the moment, I can't see it turning around. I can't see us beating Red Star. I can't see us going to Liverpool and getting a result. The only real positive that I'm holding on to now at the moment is Giovanni Lo Celso coming back and Ryan Sessegnon. Now, I really do believe in Giovanni Lo Celso. I think he's going to come in and be a good player. I think it will take a bit of time for him to settle in, but I think that Ryan Sessegnon also, I think he's a guy that people are sort of underrating a bit. I think that obviously he had that difficult spell last year with Fulham in the Premier League. But I think obviously he had 3 different managers, obviously performing a very difficult team that was always near the bottom. But I think that those 2 coming in, that's really the only hope that I have for Spurs at the moment. But to be perfectly honest, I can't see it changing until Spurs try and do something drastic in January.
Yeah, okay, well, just on that, do you think they will? And also, Roy Keane was quite vociferous in his comments after the United-Liverpool game, just saying to United, just go and get Harry Kane. Just go and get Harry Kane. How bothered would you be if Kane went?
Look, I said I'd drop him, but no way. I just certainly, if we were to lose him long term, it would absolutely be devastating. I'd be devastated if we lost Harry Kane. But in terms of what I think we'll do in January, I think that Christian Eriksen will actually leave. I do think that someone will pay money for him. I think there's going to be enough interest from clubs, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid. So I think that a club will pay money for him. And I do think that means we'll go and get someone like a Bruno Fernandes maybe, because I just think there's a clear need, and Daniel Levy and Pochettino have both acknowledged that we've got to go out and strengthen in January. There are real issues in this squad, certainly the fullbacks as well. So I think there's definitely a clear need for Spurs to go and do something in January.
Well, let's hear from Pochettino on that Watford performance.
Wasn't great, but again, when you concede an early goal and of course in the momentum that this is the team, always is tough, and of course it's a difficult situation because when you want to build your confidence again and be on the game and be solid and to have the calm to play, because always you need to be calm to play, we start to take rash decision, nervous. Of course, the offer wasn't in the way that you love to play, and it's not the best. I understand, of course, the fans and everyone, and of course, it's not easy.
So, Jamie, if I was to give you the worst-case scenario, and given that, I don't know, the likes of Leicester look as good as they do this season, and it might be that Tottenham do finish outside the top 4. I mean, absolute worst-case scenario, Man United are in this boat as well. If they were to finish outside of the top 6, what does that mean to the current squad? Which players would then be on their way, do you think?
Well, look, I mean, there's certainly a lot of players that I'd already get rid of. The likes of Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld. I mean, they're seen as our best players, or perceived as that way, but for me, I don't think they are. I think maybe the 2 concerns that I'd have would be Harry Kane and Heung-min Son leaving. But personally, I still think that they're 2 players that would stay and fight for Spurs. But yeah, of course, they'd be my 2 main concerns about leaving. But look, we talk about, I think this year, maybe one of the worst case scenarios for Spurs would be dropping into Europa League through the Champions League. Now, I think that'd be quite a good thing for Spurs, because I don't think we're going to finish in the top 4 this season. But I think that Europa League is probably going to be our best chance of doing so. And I also worry about advancing to the knockout stages of the Champions League. So for me, as much as it might be, difficult for Spurs to drop into that competition, I think it could be our best chance of winning a trophy and qualifying for the Champions League.
Interesting. Jamie, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much.
That's Jamie Brown there, Daily Hotspur. What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. What's your thoughts on that, Patrick? That maybe dropping into the Europa League might actually be a blessing in disguise for Spurs, give them the opportunity of winning something, but then also the opportunity of qualifying for the Champions League that way?
Well, it's a high-risk strategy, isn't it? Because if you drop out of the Champions League and then you don't win the Europa League and then you don't win a title, which I don't see how they're going to do that anyway, then it's been a really poor season and you risk losing all your best players, don't you? So, yeah, high-risk strategy. It's a very, very strange one, this with Spurs. It just feels like something has to change. Like, they all need to shake hands and say, thank you very much, everyone. It's been great. Thanks for the memories. Let's all try something a bit different.
Well, you wonder if that's the case. Because, look, Pochettino, I'm sure if he were to leave and go somewhere else, he will have a lot of success because we know how good he is. But it's like, well, it is. Look, this is a relationship. Of course, it's a relationship between the owners, between the manager, between the fans.
You'd know, wouldn't you, that when you just keep trying and it's done, You know, and you keep going on, and you both know that it's over. You
Not
both
sure.
know it's never going to work. You know, it looked so bright and promising for a while, but actually now, just you can't stand each other. You keep trying it, and you think, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know, why do I keep trying? We both know it's over, it's done, but you just can't bring yourself to leave.
You're talking about me and you.
Certainly one of us.
14 minutes past 9.
Love sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it,
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, but with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Don't get caught out by rising energy bills this year. Leading price comparison site A Spokesman Said can help you save money in just minutes. Plus, sign up to A Spokesman Said to get the latest super cheap collective energy deals. These offers are such great value, they aren't even available direct from the energy companies. Savvy customers have saved over £10 million from collective energy deals. Go to aspokesmansaid.com and you could be saving big money on your bills.
With aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
I have a strong connection with Scotland. I believe my tan shade is iron blue.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We've got the brilliant Martin Bell up after us, so you don't need to go anywhere. We're, of course, back tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. We're going to talk a bit of cricket now, because, of course, it was the draft for the 100 yesterday, and we've got somebody who was there, Hugh Turberville, managing editor for the Cricketer magazine. Morning, Hugh.
Good morning.
So, talk to me. I watched quite a bit of this draft yesterday. What was it like being there?
I was standing behind Nasser Hussain in the audience, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I suppose looking back, it probably went on a bit long. I don't know what it was like for people at home, but I enjoyed it. I mean, why wouldn't I? I mean, cricket badgers are going to enjoy all that, aren't we? But yeah, no, it was fascinating. It was weird. I mean, a bit like a sort of 80s quiz show in a way, you know, those sort of panels, you know, the coloured panels. You think Paul Daniels is going to pop up in a minute, you know, sort of every second counts. Yeah, but just a sort of a weird experience, really. We've never experienced anything like that in England, have we, or Britain or UK or...
No, it was quite un-English or un-British, wasn't it? The whole thing of it. It was quite garish with the colours and everything.
Game showy. I mean, I was thinking about it. I don't know why perhaps you need the kind of 90 the jeopardy of the sort of 90-second thing. I mean, they could have found an alternative sort of email chain, couldn't they, where you have as long as you want to sort of pick somebody. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking, you know, for the purity of the sport, have we got the selections bang on? You know, has the 90-second deadline sort of made people make mistakes? I mean, undoubtedly it was exciting, but I mean, Daniel Bell Drummond isn't in it for a start. I mean, he should be in it. I mean, there were a few mistakes, weren't there, I think, but it made for excitement.
Just talk us through, for those of us that didn't watch it, just talk us through this 90-second thing and exactly how it panned out.
Well, there's 8 teams, and I think they did a draw to see who'd go first, and the England Test players were allocated. So I think Northern Superchargers based at Headingley got lucky and had the choice really of Stokes or Root. They went for Stokes. So the England players were allocated. You know, nothing against Rory Burns, he's an exceptional Test player and top bloke, but I mean, he was allocated to the Lords team, so he probably won't even play in the 100 if I'm honest. So MCC, Middlesex, North and Essex team were all already at a bit of a disadvantage. The London Spirit placed at Lords. So then we had 2 local icons, and So the three players were already allocated, and it looked like the Welsh Fire really come up trumps with Johnny Bairstow, Tom Banton, and Colin Ingram. Then the 8 players, no, not more than 8 players, sorry, how many would it be? 12 more players were allocated in the draw last night, and it sort of went from left to right. And if you missed your go, then you went back to the back of the queue, but no one did, fortunately. Trent Rockets kicked it off, Rashid Khan, and then it sort of unfolded there, really. My overriding memories of Nasser saying, imploring everybody, they need a spinner, they need a spinner, they need a keeper, they need a keeper. You know, and so you had the panels with the head coaches and the advisors, and there were some sort of different names there, and there seemed to be sort of 6 or 7 people around the Welsh Fire desk with Gary Kirsten was the head coach, but he had various advisors, more than the other teams. Prez was there at one point, Marcus Viscothic. Yeah, it was all right. We missed the 4th and 5th rounds because they'd cut to some interviews with the women's tons of players, so that sort of passed me by, really. I had my back to the big screen, so I didn't really see that. But yeah, it was novel, really. My son was in the audience as well. He enjoyed it. 15. I think it is going to engage kids, isn't it? The newness of it.
Do you know, I did go to the MLS draft once, actually, over in America, and it reminded me of bits of that, and I guess they would have taken elements of how the Americans do it. One thing I wanted to ask you about was the players themselves, so some of the foreign players, Steve Smith with the Welsh Fire. One that I was surprised, though, so Chris Gale didn't get picked up. Can you explain why that was?
Yeah, his age, I mean, he's 38, 39, isn't he? I think he'd be a tremendous draw card for the competition, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Money, I mean, he was on the top bracket, 125,000. Maybe they feel his lack of mobility in the field. Is he a bit hit and miss these days? He'll get one good knock and a few others. But then you could say that about others, couldn't you? I mean, yeah, I'm pretty surprised, really. I mean, I think the tournament organisers will be a bit disappointed as well. They could have done with him really a marquee sort of icon player. Yeah.
Do you think we've got our own back on Steve Smith for his Ashes heroics by making him go and play in Wales?
I think he seems quite pleased, doesn't he? And he's with Mitchell Stark and Johnny Bairstow and Ingram, and they've got a decent side. So, yeah, he seemed delighted, didn't he? But he popped up on the big screen from sunny Sydney, and absolutely beautiful sort of morning over there in Sydney, and shimmering sea and harbour and everything. And they made a joke about him at Cardiff Bay, you know, and how he's going to have the contrast. But he seemed happy enough. Yeah, he's going to get his 125 grand.
Yeah, true.
Just on the teams, looking at them, and it's obviously hard to call at this point because we've got no idea how this competition is going to play out. But just looking at the teams, who for you would be the favourite?
Well, Southern Brave have got the firepower to win it. I mean, they've got this incredible lineup of fast bowlers. I haven't got the names in front of me, but they've got Jofra Archer, Tim Mills, Chris Jordan. I'm missing one, I think, aren't I? But they've got 3 out and out. Shadeen Khan, they've got 3 sort of out and out quicks. They've also got Liam Dawson, so they've got a really good attack. They've got 9 bowlers in their squad. Craig Overton's another one who probably won't get a game, and they seem a little bit batsman shy, so they could win it. But on another day, they have quick bowlers to go all around the park. I thought Birmingham looked like quite a good all-round unit, and I fancy Nottingham to do pretty well because of Stephen Fleming, his acumen in T20s, fantastic coach. They've signed quite a few local players. Difficult to, I mean, you know, the MCC Middlesex London Spirit team, the audience said they felt that Warner had quite a good night, Shane Warne picking his team. It looks a bit sort of bits and pieces to me, but yeah, it's difficult to call. Basically, I would pick Nottingham to win it, Trent Rockets, because of Stephen Fleming. But it could be the Southern Brave. They have got an exciting team. George Garton, I think, was another one they picked.
Yeah.
Out and out pace. You know, they could just blast everybody away. We shall see.
Well, lastly, I mean, this, you know, it's coming for a bit of criticism from some quarters, but now we're getting closer. And certainly, listening to Ben Stokes yesterday, you get the impression the players are actually really excited about this. They're really looking forward to this. What's your expectation?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the players are quite excited. I think they've been to the IPL and Big Bash, and you know, they're excited about an 18 franchise tournament, concentrated talent. I've no reason to doubt that they're excited about it. My take on it is that they've had a big task to win over the public. I mean, there's a huge scepticism. They've had a terrible launch. Things have gone wrong. various things, a bit like the play that went wrong up to now, or Macbeth, the Scottish play. You know, things have been going wrong all the way through. They might just be getting their act together. It might be all right on the night now, though. Kids are excited. I speak to my kids and their friends, and they like the kits, they like the helmets, they like the players, they like the fusion of players, they like the newness of it. What's the gauges of it success? I would say they've got to get 60 to 80% crowds fill in the first year, 3-5 years. TV audiences have got to be decent. Is it a price worth paying? With the damage, I think it is going to damage county cricket. Just how much is it going to damage county cricket? Our county's going to disappear. Are all counties going to disappear? Is it a price worth paying? Is it worth the money that the ECB have spent on this? Do they need it? You know, we've had the World Cup, we've had the Ashes. There's already a buzz about cricket in this country. Did we need this new tournament? So the jury's still out, but I think the tournament might be reasonable to watch if you like that kind of thing. If you like T20, if you like 83% of shots being smashed over mid-wicket, which some people do.
I very much do, yes.
I don't see any reason why the cricket won't be a success. Is it a price worth paying? I think there's a real danger it's going to just change everything, and there'll be a lot of really upset people out there. Yeah. County cricket aficionados.
Indeed. Hugh, really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, no problem.
Hugh Turberville there, managing editor for the Cricketer magazine, talking about the 100. Are you looking forward to the 100?
I am now. Initially, I was a bit cynical of it, and I still am to an extent. I'm looking forward to it because it's, essentially it's all very crash bang wallop, and that's what we want to see, isn't it? I just want to see someone essentially tonking a ball as far as possible, and someone bowling as quickly as possible. But I am fearful of the wider ramifications of this, i.e., the fact that our Test game is currently suffering. We haven't got an opening batsman, or really that much of a top four that are consistent, and we're definitely not going to produce any by having a 100-ball tournament.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm trying to sort of make sense of it. It's like, and the way I can relate it would to be like a brand. Let's say you've got a clothing brand that has been strong for years, and all of a sudden it starts to lose its appeal somewhat.
Yeah.
So they just go and flog it to TK Maxx.
Yeah.
And you suddenly see it's everywhere, and suddenly you sell a lot, but it's only short-lived because then it eventually dies out. I wonder with this whether it's that, like, cricket's been strong for a long, long time, but now all of a sudden there's that realisation that we need to get people either interested in it again or change what we're doing, and it will become more and more of this. And actually the purists are going to absolutely hate this because it will eventually then become more of this, and this will be the interest for people.
Well, there is the argument that actually this might detract from the appeal of cricket, i.e. the polar opposite effect it's supposed to have. This is meant to reinvigorate a younger audience and bring them into the game of cricket in a way they've not been before. But they will get used to the 100 format.
Yeah.
They will get used to 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. Then doesn't that just make them even less likely to go and watch the longer formats of the game?
So I made the point that the draft, and it's very American, of course, they've been doing it for years.
Made me feel a bit sick, actually, I'll be honest with you.
I love it. But anyway,
Right.
they've been doing it for years. But the whole point, like baseball being a great example.
Yeah!
Like baseball being a great example, there's, of course, a skill in baseball. But anyone that's been to a baseball game, you never play, you do the odd bunt, I think it's called, where you try and steal first base. But other than that, you're hitting for a home run every single time. Effectively, that's what the 100's going to be.
Yeah.
You're hitting for a 6 every single time, which is in some ways great, but of course one of the biggest things about cricket is the skill element, is Test cricket, sticking in there for however long in order to build your score. That's not the point now. Now it's turning more into baseball.
Yeah, the best teams in the world will always be judged on their Test ranking. And I think that's because Test cricket is the hardest form of the game, and it is the purest form of the game. And I like this, and I think it is more than a gimmick. It is genuinely entertaining, or has the chance anyway to be genuinely entertaining. And I do think it's valuable in what it does. But the idea for me that now we could be looking at teams struggling to bat for a full day in Test cricket on a regular basis right across the board, I think is a concern. I don't think that's an element of the game that we should lose.
So you think it's getting a bit more crash bang wallop?
It is, yeah.
You're turning more into him every single day.
Right.
You are becoming him. You know that, right?
Am I?
Are you proud of that? Or
What makes you think I've become Partridge?
you look like him.
I look like Alan
More
Partridge.
and more every single day. I don't know if that's the look you're going for.
I look like Alan Partridge.
I'll tell you what, let's not discuss this on air because I think it could get a little bit nasty.
Smell my cheese!
29 minutes past 9.
Love sport. Are you paying way over the odds for your car insurance? The spiralling costs put people off driving, full stop. But you're a careful driver, and realistically, you'll only need an insurance payout if some halfwit cuts you off on the M1. So you shouldn't be forced to pay massive car insurance premiums. And you don't have to. Go to price comparison site aspokesmansaid.com today and find out the best value car insurance deals on the market. Don't pay the price for not shopping around.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys here with you for another half an hour or so. Now, we touched on a lot of the stories this morning. Of course, Manchester United, Liverpool being a big one, and the rugby this weekend. But unfortunately, one of the stories which did make the headlines and is very much a talking point today is once again in regards to alleged racism. Delighted to say, got a very special guest on the line to go through this with us. Tom Louisau, Haringey Borough manager, is on the line. Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning. Look, we've seen so much footage of this, lots of pictures. Obviously, we've heard different bits and pieces. Keen to get your take on this, because certainly after what happened at the England-Bulgaria game, to be so close to that and to see certainly the reaction from your goalkeeper in particular, it was quite distressing. Can you explain exactly what happened?
It was probably about 10-15 minutes into the second half. We got a corner. We conceded a corner against. There was certainly abuse hurled at my players. We got over that. We carried on playing. A very short time after that, we conceded a penalty, and that's when it all kicked off. I saw with my own eyes bottles coming onto the pitch, and my goalkeeper spat at. My goalkeeper kept touching the back of his head throughout the second half, where I thought coins were thrown at him, but it wasn't. It was pebbles, little stones. The game was delayed for maybe a minute or two while the referee cleared the box and explained to us what the penalty was given for and everything. So my goalkeeper now started preparing to try and save the penalty. He went to the side of the goal, took a swig of water, put the bottle down, and that's when they spat at him and threw the bottles. Again, it was delayed a little bit. Then the penalty was taken. Another missile was thrown onto the pitch, another bottle or two. The referee had certainly one bottle in his hand, possibly two. I got a little bit concerned because I saw a couple of my players getting very upset and irate. So I walked onto the pitch and I could hear all the abuse going on. At some stage, I did hear black and the C word. I can't remember 100% at what time I saw it. It came as you're looking at the goal to the left-hand side of the goal. A couple of the players got very upset. I've looked into their eyes. I saw how upset they were and disorientated. And I told the referee I was taking the players off the pitch. Now, whether I made that decision because at the time it was because I heard racist comments or the abuse the players were suffering and the amount of missiles coming onto the pitch, I didn't think about what happened to England. I weren't thinking about anything. I just wanted to get my players off. And took them off, put them in the dressing room. Referee called me out. He said to me, "What are you thinking?" So I said to him, "I don't want to send my players back out there, not while all that's going on." So I said, what are you going to do about it? I said, are you going to abandon the game? He goes, no, I'm not abandoning the game. I said, did you hear any racist abuse? He goes, no, I didn't, but I've got my earphones in. I said to him, did you see the spitting? He goes, I certainly did. I said, did you see the missiles? He goes, I certainly did. So I said, on that basis, are you calling the game off? He goes, no. So I said, okay. He goes to me, what do you want to do? I said, I don't want my players to go out there. He said, how about your players? I said, I will go and ask them. I went next door into our dressing room. My captain stopped me in my tracks and said, we're not going back out now. So I said, fair enough. Back you all the way. I think the chairman had a brief word as well. We went back and told the referee the players don't want to come out.
Wow. So, I mean, I know then, so Darren Saal is the manager. It's actually an ex-colleague of mine, Darren Saal. So, interestingly then, am I right in thinking that the Yeovil players and staff were very much on side with this? Did you go and speak to Darren?
Absolutely, absolutely. The chairman, the manager, the staff, the players, couldn't ask any more of them. The majority of the Yeovil town supporters, fantastic. They came there to watch a game of football. A very, very small minority are the ones that cause the problem. And I think you'll find that the Yeovil town supporters were embarrassed. So was the manager, the chairman and the players of the scenes. Now, the question I've been asked as well, we're a local, small community football club. We give hundreds of tickets away. We spend hundreds of pounds giving these tickets away. And we get a following of young kids, elderly people. How do the mothers and the fathers of these kids explain to them what happened on Saturday? And I got very upset, not because of seeing the abuse. I've seen it all before. I got upset looking at my players and the look on their face. That's the only reason I took my players off the pitch, because how it affected 2 or 3 of them.
Just talk to me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of football fans wrongly almost don't see players as human beings. They see them as these people that turn up once or twice a week and kick a ball about, and they are immune to hearing whatever it is that's being shouted at them. So what? Just, you don't have to name names, obviously.
Well,
but what was the reaction like? You know.
Well, look, if you're a decent person and a decent manager, you know, some managers just put their players out there. They get well paid, blah blah blah. Get on with it. Take the abuse, take the shit, whatever. Sorry.
All right, don't worry. It's absolutely fine. Carry on.
With me, I know my players. I've had certain players here for 7, 8 years. I know their character. I know what's happened to them at home in the past, whatever. You know, I know them inside out. I could read them like a book. They don't even have to say anything to me. But when you see, you know, and some of these players I've got out of Sunday morning football, where you get a crowd of one man and his dog watching the game. So then I've taken them out of that environment and brought them into the non-league, semi-professional environment and developed them as young men, young players, and they've adapted and they've done very, very well, so well. But what they haven't been subjected to is what happened on Saturday, and that was a shock to the system. And this is what upset me the most, having to look at them players I've had here for years and see how upset they were and disorientated. It was disgusting, and it was caused by a handful of people.
Yeah. We actually had, so Paul Mortimer does the show with us on a Saturday, Sunday, and he went into detail on this yesterday, and naturally he was quite upset by it. What's the next step for Haringey Borough then? I take it, if you've gone to the FA with this, is there certain conversations that are going to happen?
Yeah. The Metropolitan Police and the FA are dealing with it. Now, you know, questions are asked, what do I think should happen? First of all, you've got to identify these people and be 100% right it's them. And then you've got to have proof of what they said and how they say it. But if you look at some of the footage, they hide behind others. They give it all the abuse, the swearing, and the racial abuse, so they don't get noticed, is a little bit less vocal, but it's said nevertheless, okay? So what I'm saying is going to be difficult for the authorities to prove it, and this is the problem. They can't just they can't act unless they've got 100% proof. How do you get this proof? The way I think could be done, everyone's got a mobile phone. everyone stands next to an abuser, or that they certainly did on Saturday. Take some footage and send it into the authorities. Just give them a little bit of help. Give the FA a little bit of help. It's the only thing I could suggest. There's so many arguments for this. Look, 4 weeks ago, I've done an interview about what would you do. Paul Pogba says, take your players off, walk off the pitch. What is your view in it? I said, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't give in to these thugs. And 4 weeks later, over the weekend, I contradicted everything I said. I took the players off.
Well, do you know
what is the answer?
I want to touch
what
on
is
that.
the answer?
I want to touch on that because you're right, and this is it. We had the conversation before the Bulgaria game, and even that we're talking about this 3-strike rule, and it's absolute nonsense. Effectively, Bulgaria used up 2 strikes, and then all the racists left. So an absolute waste of time. I mean, but
can I just say something on that as well?
Sure.
The England set up, the manager, the players are governed by this protocol or rules and regulations. I'm not. I haven't been given that directive. And I'm pretty sure the England team and the manager would have walked off. They would have done exactly what I done. This 3 strikes and out, this is football. It's not American baseball. Every country's got its own problems and there's different situations. Like I just said, 4 weeks ago I was never taking my team off. The weekend I did. The situations and the scenarios are completely different. It's how you feel at the moment. You can't ask that question. The person has got to be involved. It's got to have seen it. It's got to have felt it, and then react like I did on Saturday, purely for the protection of my players.
Yeah, no, it certainly seems like you've got the backing from everyone that I've certainly seen. I want to know about the players though, because of course I'm trying to imagine I was in dressing rooms throughout my career, and I can't ever imagine being in a situation like that where you're leaving a game early because of that, what the atmosphere must have been like in the dressing room afterwards. Because normally after a game, look, of course if you lose it's downbeat, if you win you're buzzing, but you come off for that, it must be such a surreal feeling in the dressing room after the game. How were the players?
Well, the players' heads were down. Not a lot was said. They were very upset. I've spoken to 2 or 3 players since. It still hasn't changed. Look, after the game I went and shook the manager's hand as I was leading my players off. I said, look mate, good luck in the next round. I'm taking my players off. We'll probably get slung out. Now, again, the FA Cup means a lot to the football club, to the players, to the supporters. I don't know. I just
well,
don't know.
it's a
massive occasion.
Just hang on a minute on that because this is it. So unequivocally, there was some serious abuse that took place, right? That's happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, as a result of it, because you haven't been given any official direction, you have decided, and probably rightly so, I think most people would argue, rightly so, to take your players off the pitch. And the result of that is that club now will potentially miss out on any extra revenue and all that feel-good factor that comes with an FA Cup run. Something that, of course, you guys have done very, very well in the past. So that whole situation is just nuts, mate.
It is. But there's rules and regulations that the FA have laid down. And if you read some of their rules and regulations, I don't think you're able to pull teams off without suffering the consequences. And on top of that, the money we spent, stewards, we had to get some staff in, just to make the Yeovil fans feel comfortable, and erecting fences and terracing and stuff like that. It's cost the club money. We never finished the game, so we could be fined.
You can't get booted out for that. You cannot get booted out of the FA Cup.
You don't know, but whatever punishment's dished out to us, we've got to accept. Because I made the decision to take the players off. It wasn't the chairman's decision. It wasn't the referee's
Tell you
decision.
what, if Yeovil have got anything about them, they'll forfeit that game, surely. Because it's their fans' fault, isn't it?
And also, going back to you mentioned the financial. We mentioned the financial just quickly. The fact that you got the first round proper next, you could get a Sunderland away. You know,
look, there's an argument. Look, there's an argument there as well. It's not the majority of the Yeovil fans.
Yeah.
It's not the Yeovil's team. It's not the chairman. It's not the manager. So why should they get punished as well? There's an argument there. I'm trying to look at it from both sides. Look, for me, if it's a replay, I will welcome all the Yeovil fans back. Well, 99% of them back. We don't want to play it behind closed doors. the FA Cup will mean nothing if that happens. Now, then there's the other argument. Like, did I take my team off because we're 1-0 down? This is what people are saying now. Well, what I would say as well, if the goalkeeper never had missiles thrown at his head and spat at and abused, would he have stood a better chance of saving that penalty as well? You know, we haven't even spoke about the game. Was it a penalty? Did the referee feel like he had to give it because it happened? There's loads of arguments you could have. So whatever the FA decide to dish out, we've got to accept. We haven't even spoke about the football yet, have we?
No.
They might make us play the last 25 minutes, 1-0 down. But is that fair as well? No.
Which, by the way, and actually, I mean, look, to nullify that point, I'm sure if someone had said before the game, no disrespect to Harringay Borough, but if you're 1-0 down against Yeovil, a team that have been in the league, been in the Championship not that long ago, and you're 1-0 down going into the closing stages, you've got a great chance at home to grab it. So, no, I mean, that's a nonsense argument.
I think BT Sports took footage of the game, and if you saw the game and they showed it, you know, there was no difference between both sides.
Yeah.
It was an even game. You know, I'm going to be biased and say we had the better first half, but that hasn't even come into it. We haven't even been able to have that argument, have we? It's been ruined and spoiled. All the memories of last year playing against Wimbledon, the team 4 divisions above us. We all saw what we've done now. All that's been taken away from us now. All the memories and the happiness. It's just, you've got to understand, we're a family-orientated club in a very, very poor area, and we have performed miracles at this football club.
Yeah, look, I think just from our perspective here, I think it would be an absolute disgrace and probably sum up everything that was wrong with football, frankly, if you guys did end up getting booted out. And I just want you to know that here at Love Sport, we are obviously right behind you, and we'll do anything that we can to try and make sure that this doesn't happen. And I do know firsthand as well, half my family's Cypriot, my girlfriend's Cypriot, you're in the middle of a good Cypriot community there, you do a lot in that community, and it is a proper football club in that sense. And the idea that kind of club could be booted out because they've suffered racism, I think it makes me feel quite sick, actually.
Look, if people want to get a bigger and better insight of what we're trying to do here and how we are, all they've got to do is go on YouTube. There's a mini documentary with 6 episodes. Have a look at it, and you can see we're all normal, genuine people here. And we feel like our house has been broken into and we've been abused. That's it. By not all the Yeovil people, 1 or 2 or 3 idiots.
Tom, well said. Really appreciate you coming on this morning.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good stuff. That's Tom Luiso there. Harringay Borough manager. Of course, those dreadful scenes at the weekend. The game was abandoned with Yeovil.
He started out coaching the juniors, so a lot of friends of mine, relatives of mine, used to play under him at like under 10s and under 13s, and he's worked his way right all the way up. And it's every single person you ever speak about Tom Luiso just says what a genuine, nice bloke he is, who has worked so hard to get to the position of manager at that club and worked so hard to get the club to where it is. And I just keep coming back to it, Rich, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the idea that a team could forfeit an FA Cup match because they suffered racial abuse
makes no sense.
It's just bonkers.
Well, look, no doubt we're going to be touching on this over the coming days as well. We'll see how it unfolds, and we will keep you informed. The time is
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Home insurance is vital. You don't want to end up paying through the nose when something goes wrong. But are you being charged way too much for your home cover? Are your insurance premiums simply too much to bear? It doesn't have to be that way. A spokesmansaid.com is a price comparison website that trawls the internet to find the best deal for you. Don't pay the price for not shopping around. Visit a spokesmansaid.com and start saving today.
spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
I told Melania that she draws her eyebrows on far too high. She looked so surprised.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. The final furlong of our show, then, of course, Martin Bell is up next. Now, to finish the show, again, we have touched on the game yesterday, Manchester United, Liverpool. We've touched on the games over the weekend, the VAR controversy, of course, the 100, Andy Murray. But to finish off, I know we want to talk a bit about a story that is troubling you a little bit, I think it's fair to say.
It's troubling a lot of people because it's viral on Twitter, and it is the story about a transgender cyclist, Rachel McKinnon, sprinting away with a 200 metres gold medal. So Rachel McKinnon has become a, quote, reluctant poster girl for transgender athletes after successfully defending her world title in Manchester. 37 years old, set a world record in the qualifying heats of the women's 200-metre sprint. A dominant display. Now, there are a few issues here because clearly Rachel McKinnon was born a man and certainly has a stereotypically male athletic physique, I think is the way to put that. Hench.
Right.
Is another way of putting it. Clearly a natural advantage over your female competitors.
Yeah.
There is just a physiological element to that is, I mean, that is just a fact, right?
Yeah.
And sets the world record. Now, why aren't we talking more about this in the sense of we talk a lot about a gender pay gap and we talk a lot about, unconscious bias when it comes to women. We talk a lot about, maybe raising children gender neutral to smash down gender boundaries from an early age education set up in schools. Why aren't we talking about the fact that dozens of women here have trained and dedicated their entire lives to being an elite level in their sport so they can be beaten by a man?
Yeah. Look, I don't get any of this. I really don't. I don't get it. It makes no sense. I don't know what we're allowed to say legally, what we're not allowed to say legally. It's ridiculous.
I mean, and I can sense.
How can this be fair?
And this is the point. You've just summed it up there. Like, I stand by what I've just said. I am not trying to offend anyone.
No.
I absolutely respect Rachel McKinnon's decision, or even if it wasn't a decision, they were born that way, whatever. I respect that. Right? You're right to define what you are. Right? Absolutely fine. Do I think you should be competing against people who were born female athletes in the same competition, in the same thing? No, I don't. Because I don't think that's fair. And I think that goes against feminism, and I think that goes against a lot of things that women fought and died for when it comes to getting the vote and in society and all that kind of stuff. It just seems weird to me, and I can't understand why more people aren't speaking up about this. We talk about the fact that oh gosh, that secretary there, she's taking her employer to court because he made her wear high heels every day. Yeah, all right, I think that was probably wrong, and they won that court case. Well, what about the bloke who's just won the female cycling? Like that can't be right, can it?
Yeah. Like I say, I've got so little to add here because this makes so little sense.
I just can't believe this. It just seems very, very bizarre to me because where does this end? I mean, there's a guy called Zuby who I would implore everyone to go have a look at on Twitter. He's an intelligent bloke. He, for one day, identified as a woman and broke the women's deadlift record. All right.
So, like, and this is, look, make of this what you will, but when a man in an athletics event takes drugs and wins, we come down hard on them because they're gaining an unfair advantage.
Caster Semenya, who is, there's obviously quite a bit going on there with Caster Semenya, but there's no indication that she was born a man and transitioned into womanhood and all that. She is what she is, okay? That is a natural, her way of being.
Completely different to this,
is naturally how she is, right? She's essentially being ostracised from world athletics. She's been told she can't take various medications, etc., etc. Right, well, step forward, someone who was born a man and has the physique and physical attributes of your stereotypical man, as it were, and they're allowed to compete and win. Yeah. It's just as Doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't want this to come across like I'm trying to deny anyone their rights to anything. I'm absolutely not. I'm just saying that if I was a woman and I had worked my entire life to get to a position where I could compete for a world title and a bloke took it away from me, I think I'd be pretty annoyed.
Yeah, well, it's two different subjects because, as you say, I don't care. Like, identify however you want to identify. But when it comes to competing, if there's an unfair advantage, if you're a man and you're taking drugs and you're competing in a men's athletics event, you're a cheat, and I'm going to come down on you. If you're competing in a women's event and you've got an unfair advantage, which has happened here, I don't get it, and I don't get how it can be, like I say, legally. I don't know what we're allowed to say. So it's one of them where you end up. You almost don't want to talk about it because you don't know where you stand. But it comes back to unfair advantage.
It just doesn't. To me, it doesn't make sense, and there needs to be something done about this sharpish because the fact is that this is only going to keep happening, isn't it?
Tell you what, let's finish on a happier note.
Yay!
Let's do that because look, there's a lot of good stuff going on in the world. I want to touch on Andy Murray again. Brilliant victory for him against Wawrinka yesterday, and he was very emotional after his victory, and rightly so. He came back from major hip surgery, so major that there had been a video created like congratulating him on a great career not so long ago, and now he's back and winning tournaments.
Exactly, yeah. They killed him off, didn't they, the Australian Open, and now he's won at Antwerp, so well done, Andy Murray. He lost the first set 3-6 as well, which, so, really was a proper comeback, won the next two 6-4, 6-4. Sam Wawrinka, no mug whatsoever, and you could see the emotion for him there. What a journey that was. He couldn't put his own socks on a little while ago, and not in the same way that I can't after a heavy night. He'd actually had proper major hip resurfacing surgery. He was immobile, and now look at him. He's a winner again.
And another positive story, England, World Cup rugby. We're looking good. Big game against New Zealand. Now we had an Do you, though?
Yeah, I think we'll do him.
You see, interesting interview earlier, and experts, in fact, George Shooter, we had on a former England hooker who said we won't.
Yeah, but what does he know?
I know,
what does he know about top-level rugby?
Playing for the team.
Well, what does he know?
Yeah. But look, we're coming against. Technically, we are coming now up against the best. We've asked so many people this: who wins? England on a good day, New Zealand on a good day. New Zealand win. Let's be honest. So we need them to be slightly below par. We need to have a fantastic. But this is where Eddie Jones earns his money, right? And this is where Eddie Jones has got something a little bit special about him.
Yeah, he is your extra 10% actually, and he does it too often for it to be a coincidence. And actually, when you compare him to Michael Checker, the Aussie coach, who is very hot-headed. He's quit now, by the way, and mugged everyone off on the way out the door. You compare him to that, he has got so much more human intelligence and everything. He gets every little bit out of you. Eddie Jones is box office.
Indeed. And one more positive story for today. A good day for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Oh, finally.
He's had a few bad ones.
You know what? I felt so happy for him yesterday. Match of the day too. They got him out on the pitch. You've got Danny Murphy there. You've got Darren Fletcher. And they were just picking apart his tactics in a good way. And you could see, and I thought, you know what? Fair play to you, mate. You deserve that.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, there is a big game tonight that we'll be touching on tomorrow. Sheffield United, Arsenal. Tough game that for Arsenal at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United have made a good start to the season. No doubt we'll be picking the bones out of that tomorrow. It's been a fantastic show. As always, Patrick, do appreciate it. Mark, fantastic. Very good. My name's Richard Lee. Do stay tuned. Martin Bell is up next. You don't need to go anywhere. The time is 3 minutes to 10.
Love sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have